you shouldn't. It's so offensive.
Well, no. What I've started doing, Dennis, is when I do the Jade Punk game, is we start the preamble talk, and then what I do is I sort of surprise start the broadcast. Normally about halfway through a sentence. It's preferably when I've made one of them laugh. So the broadcast always starts with someone going, "Oh shit, we're starting." That's my preferred method. I've not done it for the last couple of sessions, but I was going to say you were in a roundabout way. You were saying that all the characters you were used to play when you were younger were sort of like 30 years old.
Yeah.
How do other people feel like that in terms of what sort of age of character do you normally play, or do you have any normal sort of age of character you play?
Nowadays.
Yeah.
Well, because I've been playing a lot of D&D, and we started out at level 1, it makes no sense, but it makes sense to me. My characters have been relatively young. Well, our chief and my character are kind of like brothers, and we were how old? 17 when we started.
We were like 19, I think.
Oh, okay, 19.
But then we were magically aged.
Yeah.
Which is kind of cheating.
Yeah, I've always wondered about sort of like the magical aging, because surely it only ages you physically, it doesn't actually age you like mentally, because you wouldn't have accumulated experiences, would you?
I mean, well, if you're talking about in terms of how your personality would change if you aged, technically your frontal lobe or something isn't finished developing until like 25. So that might be one. If it's your personality that will change, because it changes how you evaluate risky decisions.
Yeah, but I mean,
like
obviously, if you've, let's say you naturally progress from the age of 18 to 19, you've got like a year's worth of experiences and shit you've done in that year. Whereas if you just sort of shortcut that via the use of magical aging, yeah, you've changed. Like say, biologically, there might be some differences, but in terms of actual life experience you've accumulated,
yeah,
you won't have accumulated that. So I could see that having resulted in sort of quite a dysfunctional personality, really, because your mental age wouldn't keep up with your physical age, if you see what I mean.
Yeah. Well, as long as we don't get 10 years of bitter backlash at once, I can deal with that. That would be harsh.
What was it that magically aged you?
Divine intervention. We
were teleported back to a city.
A god teleported, came into the world again, and teleported us back to our home city, and we all aged.
Yeah, I accidentally brought in a revenging god upon the world. And
you were accidentally worshipping the god for like 30 sessions, and then you accidentally.
That's some accident, man. That's some accident.
Well, it's a slow.
I don't know what happened. I just fell on this prayer book and started reading it.
It's a slow-moving accident.
I just accidentally fell on that virgin with that sacrificial knife. It was an honest mistake. Anyone could have done it.
No, it was a good aligned deity.
Oh, right. Sorry, so when you said the god had sort of aged you, I just assumed it must be an evil god and not some good god.
No, I assumed it was like the price of being teleported. It was a side effect. It wasn't the.
Oh, right, okay.
We were teleported, and the side effect was that we all aged 10 years.
Wasn't?
But unfortunately for
wait. So we paid 10 years of our lives to teleport over a 1 month journey.
Should have got the bus.
That's what I was saying. I was saying I'd
have just been like, God, I've changed my mind. Don't teleport me. Just give me a horse.
But the others are playing a dwarf and a halfling, so they don't feel it as bad as Tashif and I do.
Yeah. So. I would have saved my character research away.
Now a dwarf and a halfling, I can understand them going, oh yeah, well our legs are a bit short. I don't much fancy a month's walk for a human. That's probably a bit more for us. And besides 10 years, I'm a dwarf. Yeah. I've got hundreds of years' time. No worries. I'm sure he was probably the one in the corner going, yeah, teleport us.
Oh, we didn't. She didn't tell us. It wasn't like a decision we got to make.
Oh, all right. I just assumed that since you mentioned like the 30 years of praying, you've been sort of doing the police teleport us prayer for.
We kind of we were investigating like a cult that had historically been at war with the god that Dennis's character was worshipping, and so we found this weird like ancient temple to her that was like under siege by ancient cultists in a way, and we
cultists they get everywhere in roleplay, man.
Yeah.
And then you threw a rock in a pond, which resurrected the god.
Mm-hmm. I brought death and destruction upon the world. But that's the goddess of love. So it's a good thing. It could have been the goddess of pain and suffering.
Fair.
But
tell you what, to be fair, I've been reading this RPG called Blue Rose recently, and it's weird because it's supposed to be like a book of sort of like romantic fantasy and focused on sort of more sort of relationships and less sort of Tolkien-esque stuff. Mm-hmm. But although it starts out being this sort of idyllic, sort of almost utopian like fantasy setting, there's some lot of stuff in there that's like fairly like disquieting. I'm not sure if they meant it to be like a borderline horror setting, but there's some stuff in there where I'm like, oh, that sounds a bit dodge. Like for instance, the main kingdom called Aldis, where it's set, is like this land of equality where there's no like gender bias, there's no like bias based on sexuality. Nobles aren't sort of born of a noble family. They're chosen in a special like ritual. Anyone can become a noble. The ruler of the country is chosen by like another mystical ritual, etc. Blah blah blah. All supposed to be like really sort of egalitarian, and there's a lot, and equality is sort of prized in the setting. But then you like read other bits where it's like, oh, the palace at the centre of Aldis, unlike other palaces in other kingdoms, is very open and anyone can approach the palace. So I'm reading along, I'm like, oh, this sounds nice, it all sounds nice and friendly. Then it goes, however, there are guards patrolling the grounds of the palace, so on their own, singly, all of whom have like psychic powers. Anyone they come across within the grounds, they mind read them to determine whether they think their intentions are good or not, and then deal with them appropriately. I'm like, oh, that sounds a bit like thought policey to me. If you're a guard on your own, there's no one there to censor you or like say, oh, that seems a bit extreme. We should probably like sort this out. If you go, oh, I've come across this guy and I read his mind and he had in his thoughts he was going to try and assassinate the leader of the country, and you like deal with them. There's only your word to say that's what happened.
Yeah. Well, yeah. The whole
that's horrifying.
What you could do to get around it is you plan to assassinate the leader. Just walk in with no real plan. If he kills you, then how would he convince anyone else that the guy was just gonna walk up to the queen and stab her in the throat? That was his plan.
Well, it's not gonna stop a group of player characters anyway, because they never have a plan. So
that is true.
But it reminds me of that scene from Monty Python's what is it called? The one about King Arthur.
Oh, Holy Grail.
Yeah, where he some wet troll drew your sword, and now you're just the king of the land. Is that how it works now?
See, it's funny you should mention that, because there is a bit almost the same as that in the book, where it's basically if you want to become a noble, you have to pass like a couple of tests to show you've got basic literacy and knowledge of the history of the kingdom. Then you pretty much go up in this big ceremony. You go up in front of the leader of like the kingdom, who again isn't like elected or anything. It's chosen by this thing called, I think it's called the Royal Stag or something like that. And it's like this spirit who appears and basically goes, yes, we need a new leader for the land. I've judged that this person is the best leader. Shazam, this person is the leader. And that person's the leader. That's it. There's no like fucking ifs or buts. That person's like the new leader. But if you want to be a noble, you basically go in front of this leader, and they've basically got like a magic stick with like a jewel on the end of it. and they point this stick at you, and this stick basically like reads your alignment. And there's only 3 alignments in the game. There's like light, twilight, and shadow, i.e. good, neutral, evil. And if you are good, the jewel on the end glows and you become a noble. If not, you failed. You never get another chance. That's it. You're not a noble. However, if you're good when you become a noble, then later on you go a bit over to the dark side. There's no like refresher test they do on you. That's just done. So it's like, unless you like obviously like turn up and start doing evil shit, you're still a noble as long as you pass the initial test. And I'm like, again, it all seems a bit sort of unlikely. You know, first of all, you have this like magical entity who turns up and says, yes, this person's the leader, with no like, there's no like sort of authority. So how do you know that that's what that this stag is worthy to choose the right leader, or isn't doing it for their own agenda? And then you've got a magic stick that chooses who's going to be a noble.
I actually had a similar idea in one of my campaigns or settings, where they have I called it the staff test, and what the staff tested was basically if you're good or evil. But the follow-up of it is that it only tested that. It didn't test any of your capabilities as a leader. So they had a long line of good but incompetent leaders, and the kingdom started to suffer from that. So the staff disappeared, and now they have a competent leader, but he hasn't taken the staff, so the kingdom is at civil war over that.
So what games have people got in the offing at the minute? Obviously, I know you're probably playing in about 1 million games for the Chief, so...
Yeah, there's one Jade Punk game I'm in. There's... Okay, I'm going to assume that means my character has extra fate point for next session. There's the D&D game. There's Microscope game that I'm planning. And there's a currently unannounced game that I'm going to run for one of my local groups, and a Victoriana game that I'm in.
Cool.
And Jindy's game, of course.
When you say an unannounced game, do you mean you've not decided what game it is yet, or?
Yeah, we haven't really decided. We went through this thing where I'm like, okay, what do you guys want me to run? Oh, you choose to shave. Okay, well, I kind of want to run vampire. A few weeks later, you idiots! Why didn't you tell me you didn't want to play in a vampire game?
Oh yeah, I've been there, dude, as well. When you sort of say to people, "Oh, what do you run?" and they go, "Oh, anything's fine."
Yeah, don't be modest. Suggest something, please.
No, that usually means anything is fine, but what they're not saying, as long as it's D&D.
Don't get me wrong, man. I've nothing against D&D, but there does seem to be an awful most of the I would say most of the games that I see sort of advertised on the RPG Brigade, the One Shot Group, etc., seem to be D&D games, and that may just be because like 5th edition's obviously the new sort of thing at the minute, and everyone's still getting into it. It's only just come out, and it's very new and fresh. But
I think that's still. I mean, a lot of people played and still play, I assume, Pathfinder. So it's just a big game. A lot of people play it.
I've got to admit, I've never. Well, yeah. I mean, it is one of the sort of the most popular games. But I mean, it's weird. So I'm probably one of the few people who like. I genuinely wouldn't mind playing like any edition of D&D. It's like I enjoy playing 3.5. Granted, 4th edition was a bit tactically and sort of miniatures based for me, but I played in a couple of games of that I enjoyed. 5th Ed seems quite cool. I played some old AD&D like 2nd Ed when that was out and quite enjoyed that.
I never had to work as hard as to convince a group to try something out as when I tried to get them to play a Rollmaster with me. That took some convincing, almost seducing them. That was hard.
I think it does have a bit of a reputation as being. Like,
It has a terrible reputation. It's I mean, that and maybe Fatal, but I'm not gonna try Fatal. But I actually like Rollmaster.
I can honestly say I've never actually played it myself. To be fair, I probably am a bit bad that I tend to get put off any system where the character creation takes like quite a long time. Because I know there are systems where the initial character creation takes a long time, but once you've done that, everything you need's there. And I know that, but I still find myself anytime I have to spend more than like half an hour generating a character, I still find myself going, oh.
Well, seriously, I don't know why I kept playing role-playing games. My first ever role-playing experience was this a group of guys at school, and I saw they had the old red box, if you remember those, for D&D, and I thought that looked cool, and I convinced them to let me play. So we played about half an hour. Then my thief, and I was only allowed to make a thief character because they didn't have that. So after half an hour, I got killed, and the wizard of the group said, "Oh, I need a new zombie, animate." So that was my first introduction to role-playing games. I guess I liked the pain and abuse because I kept coming back.
That's it's your masochistic tendencies.
Yeah, and my first time ever in a Rollmaster game, I spent 8 hours making my character, and I died about 45 minutes in.
8 hours?
8 hours, cool. Dear.
Well, I didn't know the rules, so it took me forever.
Okay. Oh, was it like 8 hours during the session, or?
No, I made it at home.
Okay.
But it doesn't take me 8 hours today.
As I said, there's very little I do in life that takes me 8 hours, Dennis, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah. Well, that's the same reputation that GURPS has. I mean, that's the character creation, because the character creation takes so long.
Yeah, see, I've got to admit, I've got a fair amount of GURPS books, but I've never actually run the game. I tend to buy them because I find certainly the historical supplements very well sort of researched and very well written, and because they're obviously formatted for a role-play game, it's very easy to sort of dip in and pull little bits out of them. So even if I've run a Roman Vampire the Masquerade game in the past, and I've got GURPS Imperial Rome, and I just took most of the history from that because I'm not a big history buff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they're cheap too. So
exactly, yeah. I mean, depending on what edition you can get, you can often find them in like second-hand things, etc. So, yeah, run in.
I don't think he can hear us.
You're on mute, Ronnie.
Maybe they're all on mute.
No, still can't hear you, Ronnie.
So he's not dark side either. So Google doesn't work for him.
Oh, hold on.
Have a look at your settings, Ronnie. See what microphone's selected, whether it's altered your settings or something. I see now it feels like the start of a role-playing session. It's on the cog at the top, Ronnie, in the centre. If you ever, I don't know, you've never noticed, but whenever you do a hangout session, it doesn't matter where you are, and it'll probably never be the same person, but there's always someone who's having problems with like the camera and the microphone. Settings, Ronnie, see what microphone selected, whether it's. That was some wicked echo there.
Mm-hmm.
How's that sounding?
Brilliant, Ronnie.
We're back. We're
and
here.
A flash of white has appeared and separated you all out.
I noticed.
Yep.
Yes. I actually have my full lights working. Unlike last time, I was on a Google Hangout where I only had one light working, and it looked like I was completely in the dark. aesthetically as well as intellectually.
It's alright, man. I've got the controls of mine up, man, so I can just like alter the darkness of mine on my my like controls for my camera, so I can just turn it right down if I want like that. I'll turn it right up like that. The handy thing about that is it doesn't affect my overlay, so you're stuck with all my promotional advertising no matter how dark I get.
You gotta have some.
That's it. Got to promote yourself a little bit, haven't you? So, although to be fair, this is really only up because I've set it to auto load the last one that I had on, and I last had this one on in the Jade Punk game at the weekend. So,
well, you've got to protect the Red Dice Diaries brand name.
Mm-hmm.
what protect it from who? The marauding people with other coloured dice.
From obscurity.
From people co-opting your name, just changing it around and coming out with the latest milk company, the Red Dice Dairies.
Sorry, man, I'm going to open up a mattress company called the Bed Dice Diaries.
And the bad puns start already.
That's it.
And then just like cuts 20 years later, and that's why there are so many companies that rhyme with Red Dice Diaries.
That's it. The more you know. Thank you, G.I. Joe.
Just a random. Why do it call the red dice? Why not the blue dice or yellow dice?
Red's my favourite colour.
Okay.
It's as simple as that. I'd love to say there's a really like deep and meaningful explanation, but I like red.
Yeah.
that's pretty much
Really
what it is.
don't need any more explanation for that.
So what was the current topic? Just as I...
We were talking about what sort of preferred
Wondering-
ages.
Ronnie would show up, and if he would have technical difficulties if he did.
Yeah, and Tishiv we're gonna run a Rollmaster game.
What? I do not remember agreeing to that, but
What?
since I trust you, Dennis, I'm going to assume that I did.
That's good. You wanna branch out?
Serious branching.
We were actually talking about the preferred ages of like characters for games, like whether people had a preferred age of character. So we started off talking randomly about how sort of people when they're older tend to want to look younger, and people when they're younger tend to want to look older. And then we sort of segued into the preferred ages of roleplay characters. Although I don't really have a preferred age of character, so
I tend to like to mix it up. I think it depends for me on what level I'm playing. If I'm playing a beginner character, I tend to try and have them sort of younger, simply
Yeah.
because they've got life experience to come.
yeah, I can see that if you're going for that sort of I suppose apprentice level sort of climbing the ladder sort of game, I can see the wisdom in having that. 'Cause obviously you want to be young enough that you've got time to realistically climb that sort of ladder.
But
I probably should have gone with the early mid-20s range.
Cool. Hello, by the way, Steve.
Hello.
You're right. Okay, so we've got a mid-20s. I'm very much I don't have a preferred age. We've got a depends. How about yourself, Jenny?
I don't know, because obviously at the moment with J-Punk I'm playing, well, I'm kind of saying he's about 17, so he's all teenagey, angsty still, but I've also played a very old female character. I've played characters my age. Again, I don't have a preference. I think it just depends on the kind of character you want it to be. Like, Yuto, it wouldn't really work if he was like 30. He'd be far too mellowed out.
Oh, I don't know. I know some pretty non-mellow 30-year-olds.
Yeah, but
I
if
mean-
he'd have been like smoking the Blue Jay for that long, he'd just be like, yeah.
You would
Oh,
not
I
be
know.
mellowed out if you'd been like
Yeah,
dosing
yeah,
on Blue Jay.
Yeah,
You'd be like, oh, I live entirely in the moment. I'm in the Matrix when it comes to like doing things now. However, I can't remember my own name, where I was born, form a coherent sentence, or remember the way home. And it's probably just behind me there. But yeah, other than that, you'd be absolutely fine.
Other than that one thing.
See, she just can't leave the Jade alone.
No.
I'm half expecting, by the way, your character to be like, oh, I've had this blood transfusion or whatever. I've been cured of my jade addiction, and just be like sat there going, you know what? I could really go for some blue jade about right now.
Come on. All that trouble to kill your character.
Or maybe I'll switch to red jade.
Oh.
Yeah, no more blue jade drugs for me. Then does every other kind.
So are we saying that like blue jade's like a gateway drug? Is that it? Although I do want to in the game actually get around to doing like the sort of the standard sort of like opium den scene you see in a lot of films, etc.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I do actually I'm trying to sort of currently work up how I do like a sort of jade based version of one of those, just so we can have like one of those in the game at some point. Just I think sort of aesthetically it'd be very interesting.
How do you take jade? Do you grind it up?
Yeah, basically what happens normally in J-Punk is the solutions, the jade is treated, then it's ground into a fine powder, it's mixed with a number of fluids to make a solution. The solution is then taken like, and it's literally you could drink it. Obviously that's not the optimal way to get the effect because it's in your stomach and some of it's destroyed by your stomach acids. Obviously it can be injected. The powder can be smoked. There's almost more ways to take jade than there is types of jade to take, to be perfectly honest.
Sounds like coffee.
Very much. Oh yeah, coffee. Oh, actually, yeah, I could use something like that. You know, grind it up, like sprinkle it on the top of your cappuccino.
Yep. Chocolate-covered coffee beans. Chocolate-covered
my
jade.
idea still stands of having absinthe and tiger fighting in illegal dens. So.
Yeah, why not? I'll throw tiger fight in there. Maybe it'd be an opportunity to use the Joule system.
Maybe the Four Winds tournament, and you know those kids sports films where they exploit some weird loophole.
Yeah.
Well, in the Four Winds tournament, the referee, well, there's nothing that technically forbids a tiger from entering the tournament, and.
So I just flash back to like images of like the Four Winds tournament being won by a Jamaican bobsleigh team.
I just thought that, just as you were mentioning sports using crazy loopholes, there was an Australian comedy whose name I cannot remember, and it was about an Aussie rules football team that get trained up by a ballet dancer, and they start doing pirouettes and all these ballet moves.
That sounds really familiar.
And it was really, really funny.
That does actually sound familiar.
I think they might have done something similar. I think there was a British comedy called Up and Under, which was rugby.
There was also Blades of Glory.
Blades of Glory.
It was ice skating, yeah.
But I always remember the image of the guy jumping up for the ball and doing a pirouette as he caught the ball. Can't remember the name of the film for the life of me, but
it's an interesting thing, though. I mean, in terms of like sort of fictional sports, I mean, obviously we know they exist. Well, you know, obviously they don't exist because they're fictional, but we know they exist in fiction. How many people actually feature like fictional sports or sort of games in their RPGs? It's not something I've really gone into before, to be perfectly honest.
No, I'd like to though.
no, I mean,
More light-hearted campaign. I've done like card games and betting games and dice games and stuff.
there's a game that's mentioned in Space Master called Rake Ball, which is essentially 5 guys on sort of motorized skateboards with these huge kind of Wolverine-style claws in the back of their hands, and they go up and down this kind of skateboarding ramp thing.
Yeah.
Essentially trying to rip the sashes off the opponents with these huge kind of raking claw things, and power raking actually. That's what and it's extremely deadly and all the rest of it. And I always wanted to have that make an appearance in the game. The other thing I always wanted to do, simply because I owned an Amiga and I had both games, is Speedball.
Oh yeah, quality.
Which I thought would have been really fun to either have the players involved in a Speedball game, or for some part of the plot that requires them to be in some sort of amphitheater where the Speedball game is happening. Just so I can have the bit where, replay, ice cream, going on in the background at some point.
That'd be sweet. Because you've always got the thing as well, as if you have any sort of dangerous sport like that and you've got people in the crowd, there's inevitably the bit where sort of like someone either gets thrown into the crowd or they're like smashed through the rails at the side, or there's some sort of pitch invasion or something,
Yeah.
which would be quite cool.
Other than that, I haven't had any sports. I've always found it difficult to actually find a way to put it in.
Mm.
I think the closest I've ever come to it is sort of like gladiatorial combat within an arena.
Yeah,
sort of
I mean,
Roman games.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that's mentioned in Jade Punk and that I'm planning on bringing in the future, as I was talking to these guys about, it's something called the Tournament of the Four Winds, which is basically like a sort of Mortal Kombat-esque like fighting sort of sport. It's like a public spectacle. But as you say, I've only really done sort of like fighty, sort of gladiatorial sports in games. But I mean, it is something I do find difficult to include in games. I mean, even things like, let's say you're playing a hand of poker with someone in like a bar, say you're in like a Western game or something. If you're just sort of going, oh well, make a gamble roll or whatever, it's not really very, very interesting, really, is it? Just sort of saying, I'll make a gamble roll, there you go, you're done. But if you actually try and play it out, obviously that takes far longer, and it relies on how good the actual person out of character is at playing poker or whatever, rather than how good the character is. Because, oh my god, I'm going to play like a character who's the best poker player in the world, but out of character, I'm not.
I find with most of sorry to interrupt. I find with most of the sort of gambly type approaches with games that sometimes it can bog it down way too much if you're doing a play-by-play. So then whatever characters are playing that game, everyone else is getting bored, starting to look at their phones or whatever. But doing a hand or two of that will be fine, and then just let the dice indicate how well you've done over the rest of the evening's play is usually a decent way to go, because that way everyone stays engaged and that player still gets their chance to do their gambling thing, but it doesn't overshadow.
I think the best sort of, I suppose, compromise I see when it comes to things like poker is the idea that how much money you won was based on forming like one poker hand. I think this was in like Deadlands or something similar, and you make your gambling roll, and then the more successes you got, you'd get additional cards that you could choose to make your hand from. So out of a sort of 5-card hand, obviously if you make a really great roll and you've got 10 cards to choose from, there's far more likelihood you'll be able to make a good hand from it. So you do still get some benefit from your character's skill, and you only do the one hand, so it's not too long and drawn out.
Yeah, it sounds like a great way.
Mm-hmm. That was a game I've wanted to have a nosy at, actually.
What, Deadlands?
Deadlands, yeah.
I've got I never owned the original version. I played it when a friend of mine ran it, but I was never particularly keen on the fact that it seemed to have so many different mechanics in it. Like there was cards that were used in it for mad science and initiative and stuff. There was different dice that were used for it. There was poker chips that were used for it. And I was like, really, you could have just picked one of those and stuck to it consistently. Whereas the Savage Worlds version that I've got, I mean, granted, I've not actually run it or any Savage Worlds game yet, but that seems to do a good job of sort of streamlining it down a lot more and making it more consistent.
I was going to say, because Savage Worlds still uses cards, dice, and poker chips, albeit, as you say, very much streamlined.
Yeah. Which, again, obviously I don't know how it works. I've only actually played the original, but the problem with the original is there's certain things that seem to be ridiculously difficult just because of the system you use. Like the game I played in, we had a mad scientist who had like one of his arms was like withered or something similar as part of a flaw, and he spent most of the game trying to build himself a mechanical arm, and because of the difficulty rating of it, he had to get something ridiculous like a royal flush on like a hand of 5 cards, and he could only test it once a game, and it cost him blah amount of abilities to test it. So every game he'd be like, oh no, I've not got it again. And I was like, what are the chances in this game you're ever going to draw like a royal flush out of this random shuffling of cards?
Yeah. We never used them as scientists. I mean, not as players anyway, because luckily none of my players were interested in that, and I don't like that. So I was glad they didn't like it either. So we didn't have to do that. But you use card as initiative, where you each draw a card.
Yeah.
If I recall, and the highest goes first. And you use cards when you're casting hexes, when you're this poker spellcasting wizard.
Yeah, it was in the Hoyle's book of games, wasn't it?
Yeah. And I don't know. This was, I mean, it seemed gimmicky at the time, with all the poker chips and the cards and the dice. So we just eventually just converted to using GURPS version of it.
Mm-hmm.
I think I can't speak for anyone else, but wasn't it the case back then where everyone was looking for their gimmick?
Yeah.
Wasn't that the thing back then with role-playing games? They were all looking for a gimmick. They were all looking for something that stood them out.
I think it was at a time when sort of systems were trying to, and I suppose they still are, but they were certainly trying to expand and find the next big thing, weren't they? At that sort of time, as far as I remember it.
Yeah. They all wanted to be White Wolf.
Well, yeah, I mean, White Wolf were one of the big players then, weren't they? So
they were just when Vampire hit, it just changed everything.
Yeah.
I don't know whether it was overnight, but certainly, it just, because there was so. I mean, I remember getting there was a magazine here in the early '90s. That called itself Games Master and then became GM International. And it was a role-playing game magazine. And every month there seemed to be another dark fantasy, dark horror-esque style game coming out to try and nab the crown off of White Wolf, in the same way that in the early 80s everyone and his mother was coming out with a fantasy game to try and topple D&D.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Well, still going on. I mean, suddenly you had a lot of Savage Worlds. But as I understand, that's licensed, right? I don't know if you know that.
I don't. I mean, the only thing I think is different now when it comes to sort of role-play games. Obviously, people have got a lot more choice, especially with stuff that's available online and drive-through RPG and stuff like that. So people can be a lot more selective about what they actually want to game with. Whereas, certainly, I remember when I was buying my first role-play books, it was a case of I went down to like my local gaming store and there was like 2 or 3 big systems. And then all the rest. I mean, back before. I mean, we have like we're quite spoiled with sort of independent games now. They're mostly quite professionally put together. They're edited quite nicely. They've got good artwork in. But I remember like all of these sort of independent games when I went down, they were all sort of like shitty sort of A4 paper, thin paper stuff like stapled in the corner. and sort of looking at them and going, oh well, they look a bit naff. I don't really want to buy them. And then you only had a choice. If you didn't want to do that, you only had a choice of about two or three main systems that you could buy. I mean, when I went down, I think it was D&D, White Wolf, and what was the other one? I forget. Yeah, Cthulhu. That was it. And it was basically, which of those three do you want to play? And I was like, well, I've already played like a bit of fantasy. I'll go for this. I'll go for this Vampire the Masquerade 2nd edition book here.
But you had Warhammer as well, didn't you? I mean.
I already had Warhammer. That was the fantasy game I'd already run. So
okay.
When I was because I'd already run Warhammer for some of my friends for quite a while, and we wanted to try something else. And then when I went down there, I was like, oh, do I buy D&D? Because obviously everyone knows D&D. But I was like, oh, I don't really want to do another fantasy game. It doesn't seem that different. So looking at, not being a big fan of the mythos back then, I didn't really know enough about that. And I was like, oh, it's full of all these like ridiculously unpronounceable words. I'll probably give that a miss. And I was like, well, this like White Wolf, it's set in modern day, which is different. It's a horror game that's different. You actually get to play the monsters rather than the heroes or whatever, which is different. So that's how I ended up going for that.
Weird question on that note. I mentioned earlier that I had like, okay guys, I'll run a vampire game then, and then turns out they weren't that interested. You just said that it's interesting because you're playing the monster here, but I found trying to pitch a vampire campaign to a lot of people around here is met with not much enthusiasm.
I don't think there is as much enthusiasm now. So I mean, in my experience, there isn't now because everyone's familiar with, like, certainly most role players, we're all familiar with the idea of playing vampires and playing various supernatural creatures. However, sort of back when I originally suggested it to like the group of friends I was running it for, none of us had ever played a game like that before. We'd only really played like Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, a bit of the old Advanced Fighting Fantasy, which was all sort of similar in tone because it was sort of a similar genre, although obviously Warhammer being a little bit darker. But but the idea of going, oh, we're going to be playing something like where we actually get to play the monsters, and it's in modern day, in like a version of the real world, was quite interesting to us.
Yeah, I think we.
Yeah, but I had a lot of.
It almost feels that way now. Like it seems that trying to broach new games with people, unless you're talking about a new Pathfinder world or a new D&D world, it's really hard to pitch.
Yeah.
I was pitching this to like new role players though. It's not like they were playing lots.
Oh yeah, the thing is, I mean, if you think about it though as well, the number of films and like other media that exist that have the monsters as like arguably the heroes. I mean, think like League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, which has a number of people you might consider monsters in it that are ostensibly heroes. There's like the Underworld series, various other films.
But you also got all the Vampire Diaries and all those.
Are you saying that Twilight ruined vampires for me before I could even?
Twilight ruined vampires.
Twilight ruined so much. Twilight ruined the English language.
It actually ruined the word Twilight for me. I used to really like that word.
Twilight ruined good story construction and good character development.
In fact, I'm not sure, but I think it stole my wallet.
The absolute only way of watching Twilight is to watch the Riff Tracks version, because then it's hilarious. If you guys are familiar with Riff Tracks, they're the same guys that did Mystery Science Theater 3000.
Yeah.
I've only seen. I'll just stick to the CinemaSins.
See, I think it is the case that people are just more familiar with stuff like that and a bit more sort of blasé about it. 'Cause, I mean, I've said in a few of the videos I've done that the more familiar someone is with something, the less impressed you tend to be with it, I suppose. So, for instance, if you run a fantasy game and it's the first fantasy game you've run for ages, people will probably be like, oh yeah, they're quite enthusiastic. Whereas if you've run 8 of them in sort of quick succession, by the time you get to like the 5th or the 6th, they're probably not going to be quite as enthusiastic. So I think it is just a case of people are maybe a little bit more blasé about it than they used to be because there's more exposure in the media to it, even if it's not specifically role-play based stuff.
Back when we started looking into other role-playing games because we were tired of D&D, we found Vampire just by random, as you say. We went down to the local bookstore and we had D&D, GURPS, or Vampire. We didn't like the look of GURPS. It looked too dull, so we picked Vampire. Since we were all teenagers at that time, it kind of fitted us because we were all angsty and broody and emo. So
that's it, man. That's how it hooks you in it. It gets you at that impressionable age, you know, when you're also a bit gothed up and a bit sort of emo.
I was going to say, back in the day, we called them goths.
That's it, man. I'm just mixing my metaphors, you know, to appeal to all age groups.
Mixing your subculture.
That's it.
So
exactly.
I remember we spent like a group. Because we couldn't afford, one person couldn't afford to buy all the books, so we kind of divided it amongst us. You buy this book and I buy this book, and then we started branching out into werewolf and mage, changeling, wraith. Nobody liked wraith, so I never got to play that. That's one of those I always wanted to play.
It's funny that you mentioned choosing between Vampire and GURPS. I remember most of my friends who I was gaming with at the time, they were massively into GURPS. And one of the first sort of big supplements that they bought was GURPS Vampire. They got the GURPS version of that game.
Yeah, I remember that. That was awful.
I only ever played one game of GURPS, and I never used the rules.
No, I like GURPS. But that specific supplement, they failed to capture what Vampire the Masquerade was about.
They were doing a very long-running pirate campaign, and one of the player characters was actually on trial for his life. So they had one of the player characters be the prosecution, one of them being his defense, the GM was the judge, and they roped three of us other guys who weren't playing in that game to actually sit in and be the jury. And we ran a trial.
Right.
No dice rolling, no nothing, just evidence, hearing, and then the three members of the jury went to another room and deliberated. It was a very interesting night. It was a bit of an eye-opener for me, because I thought, like, wow. You know, up until then I was doing like D&D and little dungeon crawls, and after that I was like, no, this is how you do games.
See, I know there was, I think it was in the old Giovanni Chronicles for the Old World of Darkness, where there was a sort of big interrogation scene which a friend of mine ran, and he basically got, I was the first one to be interrogated. It was him playing all the NPCs. Then I basically just stayed in the room, and he went, which one of these NPCs do you want? And I took over one of those. Then the next person came in, got interrogated by the two of us, took over an NPC, until the poor person at the end was like stuck with all of us, like interrogating him. That seemed to work pretty well.
That seems like the best time to do it. At the end, guy, just everybody ganged up on him and just started firing questions all off at one time. Where are you? What do you do?
Oh yeah, because the thing is as well, by the time we got to the end, we'd obviously all had a bit more practice at getting into like the role of interrogators. So by the time when we first started off, we were a bit uncertain, a bit hesitant, you know, sort of hedging our bets a bit. By the time we got to the end, we're full bore sort of like shouting these questions and like consulting our like big list of like disciplines and going, right, well, I'm going to use this to find out what I want to know, and this, that, and the other to find out what I want to know. So I did feel a bit sorry for the person who went last, but if he'd have been quicker, he could have volunteered to go first, like I did. So
I did play one game of Vampire. It was first edition Vampire, and it was one of the worst experiences as a player I've ever had. Because we had the GM we had that terrible thing of the GM using one of the rules to his own advantage. I've mentioned this a couple of times before. The GM, whenever you did something the GM hadn't considered, suddenly an Elder Vampire would show up and tell you, no, you can't do that, and use his authority to make you go somewhere else.
Yeah, I've been in a few games like that.
That sounds like a live version of Vampire.
Oh, that Vampire is rubbish.
I thought that was like get you piping up, Dave.
By the end of that scenario, there was at least 3 of the 4 players wanted to stake the GM, so it was becoming very much like a live-action vampire game. We were just going to stake the bastard.
I think the problem is, and as I was saying earlier about people being like blasé about things they're familiar with, and I was saying this to you the other day, Dave, about Mind's Eye Theatre, like the live vampire is. I played in so many games of that by now I've played like every clan, every bloodline that exists in that game pretty much, and there's not really much left to do outside that. And yeah, of course you can play different characters of the same sort of clan, but you tend to fall into certain roles, especially in like the sort of live systems, because there's only certain things you can realistically do in a sort of live system like Mind's Eye Theatre.
Yeah, I mean, with Vampire, I've found in the past that most players do tend to drift towards what they believe is what they're good at. Unfortunately, when they're trying to do status, usually not that good. But I mean, with Werewolf, we've just started. You know, everyone's gone for the complete opposite of what they're doing. So, you know, in terms of being a breath of fresh air, certainly.
Well, yeah, and exactly, because playing werewolves isn't something that we've done anywhere near as much as playing vampires.
Mm.
We played a lot of werewolf.
But that's it, yeah, and I mean, I'm sure if we'd have played as many live-action werewolf games as we have vampire games, we'd probably be in the same position with that system as well.
Yeah.
And then Dave's just going to have to like suck it up and run a mage game or something.
I don't think I can quite manage mage on my own. Yeah.
No, I mean, I remember reading it's like, if you use the more complicated systems, it recommends like a ref per player.
Yeah.
I was like,
so half your player base is reffing. I don't think they're going to be appreciative of that. So.
No, I think that is definitely the thing where you need to have like a small group of people, groups of people as different cabals, and then have the others switch to ref for them, and then switch around, sort of thing.
Yeah, definitely. But then, I mean, the problem I've encountered in the past suggesting that kind of thing is half the players that would be them refing like, well, why can't I play? So, you know, you're stuck between a rock and a hard place.
Yeah.
I never got into live role-playing games.
I think to give it a go. There's a steampunk LARP that's relatively close by.
I still be in my element.
I'll say you're not pulling out the Castle Falkenstein card already, are you, Ronnie?
No, I'm deliberately holding back from not mentioning that tonight.
It doesn't matter, even if you're
John
only
made
planning
that.
to run one game, they'll associate that game with you. You can't not do it.
That is a cool role-playing game, though. I never got to play it. I only got to read it.
What role-playing game?
Castle Falkenstein.
Engelstein.
Engelstein.
Falken.
That's what it's called now. No way around it.
That's it, you've rechristened it Castle Falkenstein.
Yeah.
Funnily enough, there was a GURPS version of it as well.
Now he's just trying to throw a sweetener in for you, dude. That's what that is. It's like whenever someone mentions a game to me and I'm like, oh, I don't know about that, and they go, oh yeah, there's a Fate version of that, John.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I'm not the problem in my local group. There are the other players that are trouble. They're all, no, we don't want to try that. We don't want to try that. What? Read books? Oh no, I don't want to do that. So I feel stuck. I buy a lot of role-playing games, but I never get to play it.
Well, I've got more than I'm realistically going to run in any sort of sane period of my life, certainly at the minute. So I generally just now, to be honest, I buy stuff almost as much because I like reading it as I plan to run it.
Ah, it is Chippy.
Yay, Chippy's here.
Well, he did say he thought the conversation might be a little bit mainstream for him, so.
I'm glad that we can all be niche enough for him.
Yeah, I know. Well, I mean, Jenny did receive 5e. I'm just saying, like, it's spread.
Yeah, but you're telling me...
Because 5th edition really needs help spreading, because I've barely seen any games on the web. You know?
I know.
You're telling me that this vintage T-shirt is mainstream?
No. That is all Barker. That is just so
this
good.
Is the nichest thing ever.
It's all Barker. What did he write it with?
Oh.
Like a board. It's probably the same board pen that he uses to put up his like how to DM stuff.
See,
Like,
I wish,
bits of
to be honest, I've got to give him props, man. I wish I'd thought of that. I went to the trouble of getting myself like a red Dice Diaries hoodie, and I could have just like wrote it in marker pen on the back of my hoodie. I could have saved myself loads of money.
I'm going to stand up here slightly so I can get this in camera frame.
Steady now, Ronnie. Steady now.
What can I say? I got
Control
this
yourself.
T-shirt last week.
I know we mentioned the power of Falkenstein compels you.
I know it's backwards.
Get your game
No,
on.
it's
It's not
not.
for me.
No.
Not for me.
Oh,
I've got it only looks backwards on your screen, Ronnie. It appears the right way around for us.
Yeah, because
I
looking
love
at
that.
your
I
reflection
love
of you
that.
that's
I got
not a
that.
mirror is weird.
WB T-shirt.
So anyway, Chappie, if you're still there, what's your next? Speaking of niche, what's your next game that you've got up and running?
Well, all my games have been canceled until I can fix my
Of
laptop.
course, yes.
Oh.
So, T is a marvelous, marvelous way of destroying everything you love and hold dear.
I have to admit, having been in the hangout where your like tea incident occurred, and you just sort of disappeared, and we're like, "Oh, is it something we said?" Then a few minutes later, we just got the message coming up going, "No, he's just spilt tea on his laptop, and it's like blown up." We're like,
Yes.
oh.
I was
No,
freaking
that
out.
tracks.
No, he chose that night to say, you know what, I don't really feel like running. The heck with everybody. Tea on the laptop.
No. I was going to start my Wild Talents thing, but
It's a pretty niche way to destroy your laptop. Just tea.
See, that's why I drink coffee. I never destroyed a computer by coffee.
Same.
Oh, I didn't mean to tell you, by the way, Chappie. There's actually a magazine in the UK called Niche Magazine.
It's too mainstream for him.
go on.
I know nothing more about it. I actually snapped a picture of the front cover of it because I was at a LARP convention and I was just
Has it
walking.
got Cheppy on the front?
No, I've got some plants on the front, I believe. But I was walking through this hall, and as we're on our way through, I didn't have time to stop, unfortunately. I just spotted it like lying on a pile of magazines in the corner. I was like, take a photo of that. Click.
I just googled it, and it says Niche Magazine. What independent retailers read?
There you go, you see.
Independent kind of relates to niche.
I was just gonna say that sounds like a magazine you don't want to Google.
That's what I found. Look on it if you.
I'm sorry to see if I learned not to click on any links that you post in the chat.
It's not giant spiders.
Trust me, the Thief is very PG compared to some of the stuff that went on in that Bowels of Chernobyl one shot.
To be fair, if you go into a one-shot called like Bowels of Chernobyl, you've got to expect a certain level.
I assume it was at like an ungodly hour, or else I would have totally done that. That sounded awesome.
Well,
I
turned. Go ahead.
You're saying that I did some. I was the most PG. Oh my god! I need to shatter your perception of me with all my like sick and twistedness.
Yeah, you're hurting his street grip.
We effectively took the most freeform format with Fate Core and turned a post-apocalyptic surreal German romanticism, post-apocalyptic Chernobyl into a dungeon crawl. I don't know how we managed to do that. 2 damn hours.
And it was Fate Core, you say? Go.
It was
Fate Accelerated.
Fate Accelerated.
So it was like Fate Core, but faster.
No.
Yeah, I've had some experience with Fate Accelerated.
I was going to say, Cheppy, I do have the Essential Editions of Wild Talents, and I'm still to get my head around it.
I'm in love with it, pretty much. Just trying to sort through it.
We've only just met.
Oh, no, not like that, Ronnie.
You can't be 2-time in the castle.
Yeah, no.
Oh no, no one replaces the castle in my affections, with the possible exception of Cult.
Or Blue Rose.
20 is fast coming up on the near side.
Yeah, True 20. That's a good point.
I do like True 20.
It's finally gonna run my dream, like, one-shot series. Like, I had my Wild Talents, I had my Numenera thing set up, and then bam, laptop. So.
I thought you said it was the tea. You should go and drink coffee instead. Coffee would never do that to you. Coffee will never betray you.
No. Coffee is your friend
I
for
like
life.
the thought that the tea had some sort of like evil agenda.
Yeah.
Tipped itself onto the laptop.
Mm-hmm.
It does. I mean, I coffee and me, we've been together for like, I don't know, many decades now. 30 decades, three decades. I'm not that old.
If you're talking about the same
did
cup,
you
it
make
must be
coffee?
pretty rank by now.
I met coffee at my grandmother's. And
Really?
it was an instant love affair.
To be fair, man, I had my first cup of tea at my grandma's.
Sorry, I'm just kind of put off by the fact that grandmothers and love affair was in the same sentence.
You just did it yourself.
That's
Yes.
what I heard too, actually. So I'm
Yeah.
with Chappie on that one.
You,
To be fair, as long as that's
Americans.
not going to be appearing on like the one shot group, it's like the next
Well, you
accelerated
see-
game, man.
Well, you see, no, I'm kidding. There was actually discussion about a sentient ship game using Fate Core.
A sentient ship game.
Yeah,
There
survival
was a
horror.
serious discussion. I saw
Yes,
it.
it was. People were trying to metagame it. I want to be like pork rinds. People don't want to play pork. People don't want to eat pork rinds. Like there was serious strategy going on.
Why do
if you
people not
wanted-
want to eat pork rinds?
I don't know, just less popular, I guess. That was their thought process. I don't really know. I like hummus. Like that was also the joke. I was supposed to be something that was remarkably hipster, like the classic hummus or salt and vinegar chips.
Just try a piece of
No,
bread
that's
that's been
not
dipped in
niche.
oil.
No, you've missed an important point. How would that actually work? How would it work if you're all just sentient chips?
You're sentient
Explain
chips.
that part to me.
It's survival horror. You're trying to get out of the party that you're in. It's like
How? Chips can't move.
yes, they can. In this one,
No! How?
If you're a peanut, I don't know if that's considered a chip, but then you can roll out, I guess.
I didn't say it was logical. You're sentient chips, the thief. You're applying logic to
Fair.
it. There's no
If
logic.
you're gonna accept the premise that you're sentient chips, then moving's probably not too much of a stretch.
No, but like the way I was thinking is that you're just like helpless chips, capable of thought.
There would
And you're
be
just contemplating your like the fact that you're
What?
about to get eaten.
What, just sort of sitting there as someone goes.
so basically the only skills
So
you can
this
use
is
are like
X.
rapport and
So
provoke.
this is it. I'm about to be munched on. I wonder, will I dream?
Of course, what you do is that you use your frightening mental powers as a crisp, and send out the signal to the intended eater that you're not actually salt and vinegar, you are indeed smoky bacon and
You just going to be like sat there going, all right, can I have a roll on my saltiness just to see how if I can dehydrate him as a last act of spite?
I want them to think I'm smoky bacon so they don't eat me.
That's it.
So to see if you're suggesting that instead of a survival horror of Chips running away from a party, you're thinking of a competition where they're all trying to talk the other people, like the human beings in the party, to eat the other Chips before them so they can live as long as they can.
Yeah.
That's
I'm
surprisingly
just going to sit there and be like, eat the Twigglets first!
Surprisingly dark, the thief. Surprisingly dark.
But I also thought of, oh, what if it's just like you're tiny people and those people are being like delicacies to like the giant people, and instead of being a sentient chip, I mean, come on.
So a sort of Gulliver's Travel with cannibalism game.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, I haven't done
like-
a Gulliver's Travel game yet. Dang it! Why are you giving me ideas when I can't game?
In GURPS,
It's just revenge for you always running games when I'm asleep.
in Transhuman Space, they have variant versions of sentience, and they have semi-sentient, I think they call it, food. Where you can get a tiny human-sized snack, and it will scream and beg for mercy as you eat it.
That's amazing.
See,
I guess it's a thing in the future.
That's the kind of thing that would just give me bloody nightmares. That.
See,
I'm imagining it's like a giant jelly baby.
oh goodness! And the baby is crying like an actual human child. Now we're getting a bit dark here.
No, whenever I eat jelly babies, I always like tear the limbs off one by one and eat them. So.
To be fair, man, I already can't eat a jelly baby without doing an impression of like Tom Baker as Doctor Who. So.
Yeah, I always go for the head first.
I just eat them whole, damn it. None of this half measures, just all in.
But since we are on the D&D and all the other D&D products seem so popular, do you think? I mean, I know Fate is popular as well, but what do you think about the other less known role-playing games? Do you think they actually get played? Or it's just weird guys like me and John who buys them?
What do you mean? I mean, I play in games that aren't D&D and Fate.
Well, I don't own D&D or Fate.
See, you're dead to me, Ronnie.
Well, I mean,
there's a few prerequisites. Just a few.
I put my video up about why I won't buy D&D 5th. Fate.
But you have played D&D, right?
Hmm?
You have
heard of it.
I've heard of it. The only reason I don't play D&D is very simple. I'm not going to buy D&D 5th. It's very simple. I don't need it. I've got a whole load of.
Is it really an issue though? Like,
yeah, for me.
I can see the point, because to be honest, if you've only got limited sort of finances, and you say I've already got 2, 3, 4, whatever fantasy systems, and you're going, I want to buy another book, you might think, well, it's not going to be another fantasy book because I've already got fantasy systems. So if I'm going to buy a book and put my money towards it, I'll look for something else.
Or if it's, if I am going to buy a fantasy system, it has to be something that jumps out at me in terms of a mechanic or a setting.
The interests in the 5th edition has, probably the most players influence your decision at all?
No. No, I've never bought any game, liked anything based on whether other people like it or not. I only buy it on one. I will only buy something on one thing if I like it.
I have to agree with Ronnie completely. I picked up 5th edition and I sort of regret it. I've run it for about 3 or 4 sessions and I'm bored of it already.
I got to qualify this. I've never seen 5th edition. I've seen the sort of basic sort of look over it. I don't have any problem with 5th edition. I'm just, it's
You're
not...
saying you don't need it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand that.
To jump out there and say, I'm going to buy it. The only game, I've said this on another hangout, the only game right now that really jumps out for me to buy is one called Fortune's Fool, which I like the idea of the setting. The main mechanic that it uses, a tarot deck, interests me. That's the kind of thing that intrigues me. It has to be something...
What system was that?
Fortune's Fool.
Fortune's Fool.
Okay, so I have a tarot deck right here. I might actually look that up.
Yes, Chepe, I do want to. That sounds amazing.
Yes! I already got Barker in last year, and now I got Jenny.
If you run it at a time I can physically play it, I would be more than happy
It's
to.
Brigade Con, that doesn't count.
Yeah, but to be fair,
Wait.
The
Tribal
regulations
Dark
of
Fantasy.
time disappear for 24 hours.
Hey, I think those are my 5 favorite words: tribal, cannibalistic, fantasy, parasite, and dark.
Oh, I'll make a note of that. See, now I can say it.
do you see why your like job CV never gets you anywhere, the Sheep Man? I keep telling you, leave that hobby section off, man. They'll be telling them about the cannibalism. So what are your skills? Well, I can fillet and gut a body in about 5 minutes, but
Oh, high end.
But
That's
so
how I imagine that conversation's going, which is
I have no desire for D&D. Fate is slightly different. I will play Fate. I have played a game of Fate. I will play Fate. I will happily play Fate. I just won't own it or run it, because I find the whole thing of tagging aspects just a little too fiddly for my liking. But I'll gladly play a game of it.
You wouldn't even play 5th edition?
In order for me to want to play 5th edition, it would really have to be if I'm sitting there and I'm not running a game and there's no other game that is of interest to me.
so. If you absolutely had to,
so what you're saying is no.
consider playing.
If you are on a deserted island and
That's
there is
it.
only 5th edition.
If I was in a post-apocalyptic world where all role-play games had been destroyed apart from one copy of the Player's Handbook, then and there were some other players nearby, I might consider.
Then I might be tempted to play it. But it's just, I've got so many sort of generic fantasy games of one kind or another. D&D 5th, just, and I don't own Pathfinder, I don't own D&D 3rd, I don't own D&D 4th. The last edition of D&D I ever had was AD&D 2nd, and I never got to use it. I played AD&D first for the first time last year before, and most of my D&D playing was actually the old Beckme system. But D&D 5th just, no, I'm not going to waste 70 quid on a game system I'm not going to use.
No, I mean I have to admit, I've got a fair old amount of role-play books. I used to buy a lot more when I was younger, when I was a student, etc. But I've realistically got more games than I've got time to run games in now, unfortunately, which hasn't always been the case, but is now, unfortunately. So, yeah, I've vastly sort of slowed down the accumulation of books. I tend to only buy stuff now, either as like PDF because it's far cheaper, and with things like the drive-through RPG, where you have like your user area and it's all saved to your library. Even if my computer went wrong tomorrow, like I spilled tea on it or something ridiculous like that, then, and it blew up, then I'd still have all of the PDFs in my library on drive-through RPG. I could get them when I got a new computer sorted out. So it's not quite so fragile as it used to be, and you can get them a lot cheaper. So if I see a game that's, I think, oh well, I'm not sure if I'm going to like it or not, or I've just got a vague interest in reading it, I'll probably just get the PDF, to be perfectly honest. Although I do, in terms of readability, I do prefer books. I like a book to read.
I have a lot of PDFs as well, but I like the books. But I buy a lot of, well, I don't buy as many as I used to, but I have bought a lot of books that I seem to hoard just to have them on my shelf for some reason that I cannot explain. I bought the Shadows of Esteren through the Kickstarters, and I have all they made, but I haven't played it. I haven't planning to run it or anything. I just need to own it.
I'm about to be involved in a Shadows of Esteren game. I can't remember who the GM is.
Well, I've stolen her notes.
Oh, cool.
You should have freeze framed that screen and zoomed in on it, Ronnie.
Yeah. Let's
Too
get
pixelated. My writing's scrawly enough as it is without the camera different stuff.
Oh, I've come to the conclusion that I was a doctor in a former life.
Why?
I have the handwriting. I don't have the medical knowledge, but I've got the handwriting.
The handwriting that looks like a spider's had some sort of seizure on the page. Yeah.
Like, for example, if I write a small letter O, it just tends to look like a dot or a little, like... Usually.
I always find it weird, people who like draw little circles over their eyes.
Oh, I think that's so stupid. That takes so much effort.
Yeah, it's more effort than like drawing the actual letter.
Yeah, and we have like different kind of letters in Hungary, and there's a lot of variation there, and people just like draw like little circles and things. That's really mind-boggling. But yeah, back to the books. I think I own only like 5 role-playing books, and 3 of them is D&D 5th edition. It's just not easy to get books here. Like really expensive. So I mostly own PDFs, perfectly legal copies, of course, all of them.
Obviously.
Yeah. But yeah, I even if I had the means, I don't think I would buy a lot of books. It's just not my style. I maybe download them, and if I like them, I definitely pay for them.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's like with Fate, which is my sort of system of choice. I got the sort of Kickstarter versions, which are like the basic unformatted versions. Then I got the PDFs, and then I've since gone on to buy the books because, as you say, I enjoyed them. I wanted a printed copy of them.
I tend to find I can't, if I'm playing around with PDFs, I can read them, but I really hate it when I want to reference kind of 3 pages, because you can't kind of stick a finger in and flip back and then just kind of, that drives me mad. So quite often I'll get a PDF and then go, yeah, no, I really like this, I need to get a book.
Yeah, I'm the same. I mean, I've normally got like no end of bookmarks in like books I use regularly, where I've just like stuck bits of paper and they've got like combat written on the top of it, or like experience costs or whatever. And yeah, if you've got a good PDF and it's got links, you can always jump back to the contents page and then go to wherever it is. But it's still a bit more of a pain in the arse than just looking at your bookmark and going, all right, combat, and flip into that page.
One of the some of the newer books that are coming out from more indie developers or smaller publishers is you buy the book and you get the PDF for free, which is a really, really nice touch. Like I just did that with RuneQuest 6, and it was awesome.
Yeah, I never understood why they don't normally do that. Like, if
Yeah.
I'm buying a book, why do I need to pay extra for the electronic copy? I mean, it's not even a physical thing, and I'm already paying for the information with the book.
Well, it's like when I got Eclipse Phase recently. All of the PDFs of the various books for that are available free on their website, and then you basically just pay if you want the printed version of it, which I did end up buying because I'd read the PDFs and gone, "Oh, this looks really cool. I'd like a printed copy of it."
I think the reason why is because most of the large RPGs are really businesses when it comes down to it. Like D&D, Pathfinder, these are large companies now that have to put out product to make people buy. Whereas a lot of the smaller things, they're done by people like us, people that just love role playing and they want to make their game and have it out there, and they're happy to have that.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think as well we're quite lucky sort of now because, as I was saying earlier, a lot of the independent games that are out there now, and I'm not saying that independent games are necessarily all better than mainstream games, of course that's not the case, but the sort of publishing quality and the writing quality of independent games has come on so much over the years that you can now, for relatively little cost compared to like one of the sort of big players, pick up a quite well formatted, well edited independent game that looks fairly professional and has good artwork in it, rather than like the old sort of like shitty stapled together like A4 stuff that you used to get.
What I would like to see more of, and I know it's an ongoing thing, but I would love to see more of the print-on-demand stuff. For the PDFs. I mean, Drive-Thru, to their credit, there's a lot out there that you can get print-on-demand. But I'd love to see it extended to pretty much everything.
Yeah, I mean, the only real sort of major print-on-demand stuff I've got is some of the latest White Wolf stuff, whatever they're calling themselves now.
Yeah.
CP or whatever it is.
Onyx Path.
Onyx Path, that's it.
Pentex would be, yeah.
But Eclipse Phase is published, or at least it used to be, by Catalyst, and Catalyst is the same that publishes Shadowrun, and they're not putting out free Shadowrun PDFs.
It's a branched off studio, Posthuman Studios. So a bunch of people from different versions of Shadowrun kind of did their own projects, and Posthuman Studios is one of those offshoot things that kind of made its own brand. And aren't they the ones who are doing, it's the Primal Punk post-apocalyptic game, Dysgenesis? I think they're doing that as well. Yeah, Primal Punk, it's a thing.
It is?
Yes.
I haven't heard about it.
Niche punk. There's a punk for everything.
Niche punk. Wow.
Thank you, Barker, for that term. So yeah, they're doing another game that's a reboot of one of their older games, Dysgenesis. I think that's the name. It's a basic D6 system. It has a lot of World of Darkness elements to it, and kind of how do I put it? It's like the Book of Eli, but more bananas. Like, it's just, how do I say it? Never mind. Primal Punk is the better explanation. I have no words for it.
I still can't believe that's a thing.
There's a lot of things to see.
The other thing I'd like to see with the print on demand is get older books again. All these old RPGs that must hopefully be hiding in someone's, like the old Steve Jackson games. Because I've been looking online for a print version of Toon, and people are just selling it for silly money. And I'd much prefer to get a print-on-demand version.
I can't stand most print-on-demand versions though. Like, most of the stuff I've gotten, like the paper quality, I might as well have just printed it off myself. In all honesty, at least there's something about like some standard print and some of the premium, like the right thicker paper and the ink that properly sets on it, to where it actually feels durable. Doesn't feel like I'm just gonna rip it by turning the page. I don't know.
I got Basic Fantasy, which I think you pick up from Amazon for like a £5 print copy, and that was all right. That was pretty good. But yeah, you compare that to something like the One Ring, and yeah, it's not the same, but it's not bad.
Oh, just personal preference. I normally save and try to find at least standard, and even standard sometimes, because sometimes they actually do the print-on-demand paper, and then they say it's standard. But yeah, I don't know. I'm picky.
Any of you guys have 7th edition Call of Cthulhu?
No. I
thought you were going to say 7th edition D&D then. I was going to say, shit, I'm not, did I like doze off for a second and then like another 2 editions came out?
Yeah, it goes that fast now.
Didn't Ashley put out a video about that?
I have 4th edition.
I have 5th, and I think that was a gift. But
I never saw the idea of updating Call of Cthulhu because it's so simple. What are you gonna update?
It has sexy artwork.
I am tempted to get a PDF of it just to see what the differences are.
If you look at the French licensed version of Cthulhu 7 edition, that looks awesome. But unfortunately, it's written in French, so
yeah,
I can't read that.
How important do you think art is for a book you want to buy? Does it make you want to buy it more if it has nice art?
It looks more professional, I think, with nice art.
It depends if I know it or not. I bought the most ugly role-playing book in the world, and that's Ars Magica 5th edition. They have all the pages are tinted pink.
Ooh.
And it's so ugly, but it's also very cheap. I think it was about £24 or something like that. So, but that's the most ugly book that I own. And I actually think they did a disservice to the game because it's a very good game, but it just looks bad because
depends on your, for me, it depends on your definition of good art. I'm not too bothered whether it's full color plates or pencil art or little stick figures, as long as it's evoking the right atmosphere for for whatever the genre is. I mean, some of the Pendragon, which I've got the 4th edition of, it's nothing but black and white art, sort of pencil art, and it's gorgeous. There's no need for any sort of full color plates in that. The art is very simple, but evokes the right atmosphere.
So, yeah, but when you pick up a role-playing book at a store, and if you look through it and you think this art is bad, does that influence your decision on whether to buy it?
Yeah, I'm a sucker for nice art.
I think if there is really good art, then it certainly doesn't hurt, and it's a good way of getting, if you're sort of browsing over, it's a good way of getting your initial attention. If I look at a book, though, and the art's not particularly good, if the book itself is like a genre that interests me, or other people have recommended it, or I think the writing's interesting, I'd probably still buy it, but having good artwork there as well is a big plus for books as far as I'm concerned.
For me, it depends upon the packaging it's in. Like, for example, if you're buying a book for a premium cost, then it better have some decent art in it to make up for it, really good production value. If you're picking up, a smaller production, maybe not A-quality art, then if it's priced appropriately, sure, it doesn't matter to me. It's not like I'm going to be looking at the art when I'm actually gaming in said game. But if they have really bad art and it's premium price, I'm less interested.
Yeah, that too. Yeah. No.
I think it also depends on if I've got something. If it's a game where I want to get a feel for for evoking something. So if it's a setting, then the artwork gives you a feel for whether or not it's going to be dark or whether it's going to be lighter or that kind of stuff. Where like supplements, I was thinking I've got a lot of Raging Swan stuff, which is black and white, and I've bought it and I'm loving that. The artwork's okay and it's black and white, but I don't need to get a feel for what they're going for so much. It's more about what's on the page, where an entire book, I'm more trying to get a feel for, okay, where's the author trying to take me? But yeah, really good artwork. It definitely gets my attention, and it does look nice on the shelf.
I mean, it's like the.
So would you? Sorry?
I was just going to say it's like the Sorcerers of Turok book that's just funded on Kickstarter. I know both myself and Jenny have backed. It is by Graham Botley, and I saw that when I went to the Dragon Meat convention. They had like a load of the sort of sample pages printed out in a folder, and one of the things that struck me about that is they've got a watercolor artist to do all of the pictures inside the book, and it's all like full color. But obviously watercolors aren't normally used so much in RPGs, etc. So it did make it stand out, and the art looks very unique for an RPG book. So that was definitely a big draw to like get people towards it. And it made me, because it's the description of it is it's a sort of a D6 system-based RPG, and it's all about sort of sorcerers and magic and stuff like that. But I don't think I'd have been as drawn to it if it hadn't been for the fact they had these beautiful like display pages there.
Okay, what about, say they were releasing some new Fate thing, would you be happy to just spend more money on it if it had better artwork? Or if it's something that you already think is good and you're going to buy, do you not care either way?
I don't know. I mean, I'd certainly expect to pay less if there wasn't artwork in it. But I think I would be prepared to pay a little bit more for like good artwork. However, if it was a case of, it's like if I had a choice of buying like a hardback or a softback book, I'd generally probably go for the hardback book because it's more hard wearing, unless it was significantly more expensive, because it's nice, but I don't need it.
Actually, now I was thinking, Numenera has really astonishing artwork. But
did someone say Numenera?
for me, the game was just a big bang for nothing. I felt like it was nothing. It wasn't what I hoped it to be, and I wouldn't buy it. I was gifted the player's handout thing, PDF, and I acquired the PDF for the game too, but it's just not doing it for me. And though it has beautiful artwork, I wouldn't buy it.
I remember an artist who did some of the, what I would call filler arts from the old World of Darkness. I think he was called Birth Thing or something like that. And I hated those. Whenever I saw one of his or her illustrations, I just cringed. And why are they spending money on this? So that kind of took me out of reading it, I guess, because I thought, well, Darkness had generally good art, or at least appropriate art in it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it has to sort of work for the genre and the feel of the book that is trying to be portrayed. I mean, a lot of the old, sort of back in the old World of Darkness, sort of Vampire the Masquerade days, a lot of the original stuff that was very black and white, sort of stylized black and white art on sort of glossy paper, which worked well for that game. However, if you'd have been running a sort of full color superhero game, then probably that same sort of artwork wouldn't have worked as well for that type of book.
No, I mean you want the artwork to evoke the atmosphere and the genre that the game is trying to sell you. I'm a little wary of overproduction on games. I'm always wary of a $10 a £10 game being sold for 30 quid because there just happens to be some nice art in it. I'm like, well, if I want a coffee table book of art, I'll buy a bloody coffee table book of art.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a case of just having sort of nice art doesn't make a game, but having it there, as long as you've got the game and the sort of quality of the actual game to back it up, you basically get a better result if you've got quality writing and quality art rather than just one or the other. But I'd say at the end of the day, you can get by without such quality art as long as you've got a good game.
Yeah.
But it certainly doesn't hurt its chances to have some nice art there to back it up.
No, I would agree. I'm looking down the list and everyone's sort of mentioning all their games. I think it's kind of swinging around to that original sort of yes, the Shadows of the Esper and art is really nice.
Yeah.
That I've seen from Zero. But it's talking about do sort of niche games get a run in?
Chippy
lighted up when you said niche. We could all say it.
No. I was laughing at John's retort. It was like, art is sexy with Shadows of Hester, and he's like, unlike the system. I was like,
although, to be fair, that was a bit unfair on my part because I couldn't actually locate the system. So.
But in my experience, looking at all the Kickstarters, I did find that good art makes you like good art projects are backed better. Obviously, you can't really see the writing on a Kickstarter, but
unless you do it how Numenera did it.
Yeah, but mostly I think it's good art that, especially on Kickstarter, that gets a game kick-started. And I'm mad at Numenera using Kickstarter because Monty Cook could get funding anywhere.
What is this?
He could get funding for a game based around sentient chips, perhaps.
Yeah, but why would he want to do that when he can just have all the free money from a Kickstarter?
Yeah, I was going to say, to be fair, you can't really blame him. I mean, if I was if I was making a game and I'm like, okay, I need this game to make money to make it worth doing, and I was like, well, I can get the fund, I could front up all that money in advance myself. At which point, I think it's going to be popular. If it's not, however, I've effectively printed out all those books and I've got them sat in a warehouse and I'm not selling them. Or I can put it on Kickstarter, get all the funding first, and then it's comparatively low risk for me. So I can't really blame him for doing it.
I mean, he would also have to go with the legal shenanigans of finding a publisher and doing the trying to convince investors so I'm doing a game set in 1 billion years in the future.
There have been 7 worlds before this, or whatever it is. 8 worlds before this, yeah, 'cause it's the 9th world, isn't it?
Yeah, but the thing is, this is what boggles me, that it's Kickstarter. You don't need to kickstart a running car. You kickstart a car that is not running. Small people, not giants. I understand him. It's just not fair, I feel.
The thing is, though, I'm going to throw in a little perspective here. We can talk giants like Monty Cook, but in the large scale thing of game design and just the world in general, Monty's pretty tiny.
Yeah, I mean that's it. I mean even the sort of the big mainstreamers of the hobby are actually, as far as sort of companies in general go, fairly small because it's a fairly small sort of hobby still. Don't get me wrong, it's bigger than it has been, but it's still not exactly an all-encompassing sort of widespread hobby. I mean, you only have to look at all the problems that some of the bigger companies, without naming any names, have been through when they've had to sort of rebrand various things, they've had to franchise things out. Because even though they're sort of big companies within the role-playing sphere, when it comes to like the world stage, they've actually their profit margins aren't that huge when it comes to role-play.
Yeah, that's fair, I guess. My inner commie doesn't like that.
I mean, I think as well. I mean, in terms of one of the things I also like is the I don't know how it's pronounced, so forgive me if I say it wrong. Is it Patreon?
Yeah, I believe Patreon.
I quite like. I mean,
Patreon.
Hey,
Patreon. Patron. However it's Patronus, however it's pronounced. However it's pronounced, I quite like that. I mean, I've only done I'm only on like the Evil Hat sort of like Fate one, but effectively that's like every month they make something, I give them like a few dollars, and then you get like the sort of PDFs of the supplements as soon as they come out, and you get like the advanced sort of just the text versions. So I think that's another good way to sort of get supplements like that without it being a massive outlay of cash, because if they don't produce anything, you don't pay anything, and even when you do, you're only paying a fairly sort of minimal amount. And yeah, it's only a PDF, but it's still an extra supplement you're getting.
Yeah, I did Dyson's one.
Oh yeah.
And again, you just think the guy's putting out map after map after map after map, and they've really, some of those have really fired me up, and I really like them. And it's just nice. He's making enough money that he can do it, and I get it, and you know that's great.
That's exactly. I mean, I think we do sort of live in an era where we've got sort of more access to various different forms of RPGs now. So even if you do only have a small budget, you can potentially still get hold of your supplements, your RPG fix, etc. Whereas if you do want to spend a bit more money, you've also still got that option.
No, I mean, it's I kind of like where RPGs are at the moment in terms of the amount of access people have to them. Both the hard copies and the PDFs. I love the fact that the PDFs are around. I love the fact that there's so much low cost and even free RPG kicking about, which I really like. And it's kind of nice. There's a nice sort of underground sort of RPG movement happening. It's almost going against the big within the hobby, the kind of big companies like Wizards of the Coast, who quite frankly have need a whipping.
Need a what?
Need a whipping.
I thought that was what you said.
Well, I can definitely see that in Hungary. It is getting back on its feet. I hear that in the 90s, when I was born, role-playing was pretty big in Hungary, and now nobody ever plays. But actually, now it's starting to get back on its feet. So, yeah, I see RPGs growing stronger. That's nice.
It's always good to hear. I mean, it's different in sort of, I suppose it's different in all parts of the world. to be perfectly honest. I mean, I've certainly where I live in the UK, there's not a terribly big RPG scene, to be perfectly honest. It's why I'm glad to have discovered the sort of online running of games. It does mean you've got more people in various different areas who I probably wouldn't have even met or never mind gamed with without the sort of technology we've got now.
Yeah, I mean the certainly I've been very the things like Google Hangouts has certainly been a boon in sort of expanding possible gaming, because now you're not necessarily worried about trying to find a local gaming group anymore. You can go international.
Yeah, well, I will need that. I will leave the country in a month, so all my groups. Speaking of which one of you is in the UK? England, more specifically?
Hello, mate.
Me.
My accent is totally that of an Englishman. I have.
Even your fake English accent didn't sound like the accent of English.
I know,
didn't
right?
even realise you were faking, to be honest. I thought you were just talking normally.
What, my fake accent? What?
No, I meant that he did it on the tribute video.
Oh,
Right.
yes. Oh.
So, I think I would need a list of good RPG shops in England, near London.
I'm
Games
still
War.
trying to find them.
I'm out. London's too rich for my blood, man.
There's Orcs Nest. If you're in central London, there's Orcs Nest. That's, I mean, it's Forbidden Planet, but Orcs Nest in central London's probably the best place to go. I found a little place in Redhill, which is round the corner from my brother. So I've been trying to buy anything that I want it hardback. If I can, I'll buy from them, because they've got a nice little scene. They run board games and they run RPGs on Wednesday nights.
So I just found this forum that's talking about different shops, and someone says Orcs Nest is not one of them. Stupid shrink-wrapping Nazis.
Those are the best kind of Nazis.
As soon as someone mentions the word like Nazis in a non-World War conversation, it normally just means they're a knobhead.
Yeah. He's called Steve.
Yeah.
Steve?
Now I'll be spoiled.
Same Steve that was just in this hangout.
What kind of rapper name, Steve?
Orcs Nest definitely they've got a lot of stuff in the shop. Yeah, I think most of it was shrink wrap, but it's, it's somewhere you can go and get stuff, and it isn't Forbidden Planet or Amazon.
Yeah, that will be definitely a change for me. I mean, in Budapest, which is quite a big city, almost 2 million people, and there is like 5 RPG shops, and like they sell Magic mostly. So, ouch.
I mean, to be honest, that's
Nothing against Magic, but ouch.
I mean, that's even the case with like where I live. I mean, the actual profit my local game store makes off role-play books now is so slim, like in terms of the stuff they sell in the store. But they make more stuff off like board games, card games, etc., and through internet orders.
They also need to. I mean, they need to make a living, right? So
that's exactly. I mean, my wife used to work at the local game store like many years ago, and we're quite friendly with the people who run it. And he said to me on more than one occasion that if it wasn't for their sort of online customers, they wouldn't be able to afford to keep their shop open.
Yeah.
There's a lot of I can't remember a game shop I've been into that doesn't stock Magic, and if you talk to them, that's what keeps them open.
Yeah, it's not that they sell Magic, it's mostly they sell Magic. I mean, they still have stock from 3.0, like not even 3.5. And that wasn't yesterday.
Well, if that's what people are buying, I mean, that's
no, that's what they are not buying. It's still there.
There's 2 other game shops in the London area that I've dealt with via mail order. One is Leisure Games.
I have ordered a lot from Leisure Games.
And Games Lore, who I found to be very good.
Games Lore is actually cheaper than the others.
I found them to be very good. And when they post you something, it arrives the next day. And given that that's London and I live just outside of Glasgow, that's a good postal service.
Yeah.
You know, they're making they make sure it goes first class.
Well, I'm sure it gets first class treatment until it gets to Denmark, and then it's kicked in the head and thrown into a ditch, and then eventually it comes to my address. But sure.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. That's another thing. I can't really order stuff because mails just disappear as soon as they enter the border. Like, there was a time where Amazon didn't deliver to Hungary.
Wow.
That's fast now, but still.
Yeah, Denmark got on the blacklist of a book depository too, as well.
Really? Why?
I think a lot of Danes would order something and then claim it didn't arrive, or they would have to, get the money back from the bank, go down to the bank and say, this is a mistake, and then the bank will say, okay, according to Danish law, if you say it's a mistake, it's a mistake, and then the money would go back. I think.
So what you're saying is they make a profit, but we're cancelling an order.
No, I'm saying
at the same time they get it.
Yeah.
Did I understand that right?
No, because in I don't know if you have that law or if it's just Denmark, but if I order something online and I use my credit card, and if I'm not happy about it, I just call the bank and say, this is a mistake. And then the bank say, okay, and they refer the money back to me.
Well, we definitely don't have banks like that in the UK, so.
Yeah, I'm going to go to Denmark and have a credit card there, just to be sure.
I mean, you have to do a little song and dance for the bank, but
we have to do that anyway. Like,
you have to do like a full musical number with the brass band in the UK.
At least 7 minutes in length.
Oh, well, we're talking like arias, a prologue.
I will do the
programs
daily
for the
listen.
audience. You know what I mean?
Rufus, I want to see that tap dance number.
Oh yeah.
Better be
maybe that could be one of your future
and a
games.
sparkly uniform.
Like
Yes.
one of your future games, Cheppy, a sort of musical version of RPGs.
Oh, good night, Lewis.
Bye.
You're around.
Bye.
Take care, dude.
No, I don't run things just because of that. Okay, I'm guessing you watched the world building video last night.
I've not actually got around to watching it yet, to be honest.
No,
That's
but
fine.
how did it go?
It went amazing. We came up with a new genre. What did you do with your night?
I slept through most of it.
No big deal.
I flew a long way.
No, I killed 5 billion viruses on my computers.
5 billion viruses.
Yeah, right. No, it wasn't.
That's-
Actually,
You
200.
created one genre.
all that work, and all you had to do was take a cup of tea and pour it into the computer. That takes care of any virus.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true. Also,
all you
my
need.
files. I spent the night reinstalling Windows. So.
When he says they invented a genre, it means they took another word and they put the word punk after it.
Yes, that's what we did. This time.
I was groaning early because Jonathan Green, that author who's quite associated with Fighting Fantasy, he's now written a new book called Shark Punk.
Shark Punk.
Yeah, which is apparently to do
Wait,
with
wait.
all the shark movies.
More like
Wait,
Sharknado.
what makes the genre the punk version of that
I
genre?
don't know.
People
You need-
are not wearing clean clothes. I don't know.
Can you have
piercings and a rebellious attitude.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
you can do that, but it's become a word because of internet. Once you have enough body of media of some variety, whether it's movies, TV shows, comics, whatever, in which there are multiple settings in which the themes of the settings are centered around the spread of a particular kind of technology, especially when it's acclimated by a new generation. Boom.
So
Punk.
Shark Punk could
Are
be...
you reading this from somewhere or just made it up?
No, that's just. I was just thinking off the top of my head.
Because he's got some niche fodder.
Yes, niche butter. Oh goodness, niche butter. That sounds horrible.
It was Watergate. Now every time there's a scandal.
Oh god, yeah, he's got a gate after it.
Yeah.
I
Bumgate.
want there to be a scandal about a gate.
Yeah.
Gate.
Yeah.
So
Scandalgate. Yeah.
So,
cyberpunk, cybernetics, transhumanism, biopunk, biotechnology,
Yeah,
mutation.
but cyberpunk is all.
Jade punk. There's a lot of jade in it.
Yep. Yes, that's exactly it. Society is run off jade. And we have Aztec punk now, because why not?
Why are you punking the Aztecs?
Because it's awesome. You need to see that video to see if you're gonna blow your mind. It's gonna blow your mind, man. It's gonna be your next Facebook game.
So I'm imagining a load of Aztecs with like piercings on like motorbikes now. So
No.
Mad Max meets the Aztecs.
It was in Grand Theft Auto. There was like a gang called the Lost Aztecas.
I see.
Last night, I did what I would call doing research for a forthcoming cult game. A neutral observer would say watching several episodes of Criminal Minds.
Sorry, man. I revised to my J-Punk game the last weekend by watching Seven Samurai. So
Yeah, that was funny.
Well, I don't know what I did research for by watching Zoolander, but I did watch it.
it depends. Did you have any sort of like walk off or anything during it?
We know what research it was. For a brand new genre, fashion punk.
Yeah.
No, but there needs to be a Zoolander one shot, like really badly.
I thought you were
Like, that needs to
rehearsing for that game where finally you were going to get some players killed by a freak petrol fight accident.
That needs to happen as well. I love that scene. So
A petrol fight.
That's it. I'll tell you what I randomly fancy running for like a one shot. I quite fancy running a game set in like the sort of like the Peter Pan sort of mythos.
Oh,
I didn't even think of that. I should have brought that up in Surrealism Month. Oh,
Are you saying that John outniched you?
Would that be pan punk then?
Neverland is not.
Neverpunk.
Neverland is not niche.
Never
Neverpunk.
Well, is it niche in the context of role-playing games, at least?
Punk.
Sure. There probably is a Neverland game. I never looked it up. John,
I'm
you
sure
gave
it
us.
must be out there somewhere.
I mean, there's.
It's probably been in, you know how they'll, this is a world where the Brothers Grimm stuff is real
Like
and all that.
220, like a 220 thing or something.
There's that, says Chief.
what I want the game set in is the comic book series Fable.
Oh yes, very good comic series.
I'm actually gonna play in a campaign, kind of similar to that.
That's like really strong, and everyone should play The Wolf Among Us. Buy it on Steam. It's really good. Best computer.
Oh, you made me
I'd
click
love
on
to if
Steam.
I had a computer. Well, my own computer.
awesome. It's
What,
really
what,
awesome.
what are you on now?
Don't start
I'm
me on games.
I'm on a piece of equipment provided by my workplace.
I can't find
Nice
like a
try.
Neverland RPG.
Don't start me on games based on computer games.
It's a computer game based on a comic book, so
Uh,
It was based off a novel that was based off a postcard written by some person's aunt, which was based off of myth. No, I'm kidding.
yeah.
I'm writing a game based off a postcard my aunt wrote. That sounds
go.
great.
Punk.
Well, she was tripping on LSD at the time, and it was a rather interesting postcard. All right. Oh, you found a Peter Pan one. Hello.
Oh yeah, I've just found that as well, the forum-based one.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I found a Savage Worlds Peter Pan conversion thing.
What is
I was
in
trying to
it?
look for an actual product. What?
What is actually in Neverland? Like, there's the Flying Boys, there's
the
Pixies.
Indians.
Pirates?
No, what fantasy style stuff?
Fairy? Magical?
Yeah.
Dice?
Mermaids.
Yeah,
Mermaids.
mermaids.
Probably curses
I'm
associated
sure
with
probably
treasure.
in the book it's probably expanded on a little bit more, but that's about it, or as I can remember from the sort of.
The magic where the guy who wrote it doesn't get persecuted for like stalking a family whose parents mysteriously die and then adopting them and writing stories about hugging them and flying to Neverland when they can be kids forever.
Oh, goodness.
That's a cool magic power.
Yeah, to be fair, you wouldn't get away with that nowadays, would you?
John, I need you to do something for me. I need you to make a dream come alive. Right? You need to run a game of Changeling the Lost.
I was going to say, if I had a quid for every time someone had said that to me.
I need you to run a game.
The whole quid.
I need you to run a Changeling the Lost game in Neverland, where it's
Well, I do have
basically-
Changeling the Lost.
I want to play that game so badly. You will make my everything if you run a Changeling the Lost game. I've been trying to get someone to run it. I just can't buy it because I can't find an affordable copy for my budget.
Is this like niche tabletop RPG speed dating or something?
Do you want me to start listing games I have that you probably haven't heard of?
Go for it.
Go for it? Although Ronnie might have. Let's see here. We'll start out with Cold City.
Yeah.
Stuff. You've heard of that? Cool. Let's see here. Everyone knows Numenera. World of Dew?
No.
No.
Nope. Okay.
You do realise if I say yes, I've heard of most of these, it's probably because I've watched your videos.
Yeah, How We Came to Live Here.
Yeah, I've heard of them.
Cool. Let's see. I can't remember because I'm away from my shelf, which is
I know heard of that one.
Monsters and Other Childish Things.
No.
Away from My Shelf's quite a good title, actually, because it's like you take the book off the shelf.
Oh,
and
that's
you
it.
play
We're all playing sort of intelligent, animate books that live on a shelf.
Yeah,
Interesting.
We're all sat there
in the
one.
social.
Maybe like a
concept of
small
playing.
child has like come into the book room and he's like
Okay,
pulling
sir.
books off and tearing pages out, and they're all sat there sort of wondering who the next one's going to be.
You're big on Kickstarter, so you certainly have heard of Golden Sky Stories, right?
No.
No.
Never mind.
Away from the Shelf could be a really good title for a never-ending story role-playing game.
Oh my
I
god.
was the Page Master. Do you
Run a
guys-
trail, run.
Oh, Page Master, the thief.
I was going to say Page Master.
Oh,
That's
Oh,
kind of
the Page Master, that's a silly movie.
I love that movie.
I know
So much
it's.
nostalgia.
I actually really like it. Yeah, I actually really like that movie. And I
yeah, it's
really
good,
like
but it's just really silly.
I have no idea what movie
Like,
you're referring to.
honestly.
it's like a kid goes, then he goes into this animated world where his three best friends are books, 3 books. One's horror. Is one adventure?
Yeah, because
And I
he's voiced by Patrick Stewart.
In which case, I probably have seen it because my wife's like a mad fan of Patrick Stewart. So
And it's Macaulay Culkin playing the boy.
Azor.
if he's muted now, I'm going to piss myself.
Not this time, Red Dice Diaries.
Hey!
Hey, you've just got
You're just
some
blurry.
thing in front of you.
Oh, it's creepy.
I'm sorry, I
It's just-
immediately got like
John,
the
it's just
image of
Todd's
you
remains
saying-
of his skin. Oh, there it is.
I've been unleashed into the hangout.
I immediately got the image of you saying, "Not this time, Red Dice Diaries," then realizing you're muted.
Oh yeah, that'd have been so funny. Just sat there going.
Oh, was Fish the construction guy in here? Is he just gone? No.
Because you were showing up and he was like,
What?
God.
Yeah, Chippy.
He told Chippy that Chippy had like amazing
Sorry,
facial construction.
I've only just noticed Cheppy's gone because I was too busy writing down that he wanted me to run a change in the Lost game.
Yeah.
Here you go.
Cheppy, otherwise known in my heart as Captain One Shot. He is the man who runs the one shots.
To be fair, that just sounds like the world's worst porn name to me.
That's not.
Session still broadcasting? Oh, good to know.
Just FYI, John, my porn star name is Rapid Reload. We're going down that road.
Mine is Greater Cleave.
Yes. 2 targets, one zone.
Not unlimited target.
Unlimited targets, man. What are you?
I can just take 1 5-foot step between you.
Oh.
So it's not attack of opportunity then, or?
No.
It doesn't sound right.
Does anyone have like a role play topic to like drag us back to before we?
Yeah, I had
So,
undead players.
This is still your fault, Matthew, for like coming into Hangout.
How would you
bringing my filth with me?
treat undead characters for players in a game that is not Vampire?
Dennis, and you thinking of creating that world where
You can do it in Dresden.
there's like a area where there's sentient undead?
You can. You totally can.
Yeah.
I meant mostly like a D&D style game, like one of the players dies and gets reanimated as a zombie or something.
I was thinking doing a Dark Souls style thing where like everything would be super hard, but if you die, you'd become like a zombie and you'll be sinking closer and closer to mindlessness.
Didn't someone in the brigade post an idea like that, where he would base it on Dark Souls?
I can see from the comments on this Hangout that Natural 20 Games is quite keen on the idea of a Zoolander game.
Oh, yeah.
Let me just check.
Just you wait until you see my Magnolia.
It's on the Google Plus comment, I think.
We could even do the walk.
Found what was the
Walk off,
research
old
for.
school rules.
Yeah. If you're gonna go Zoolander, go.
I'd like to do the part that David Bowie comes in the film where he just turns up for 5 minutes and he's like, perhaps I can be of some assistance, gentlemen.
Yeah.
And just like judges the walk off and then disappears.
That's where you want.
Although I do like the bit where he's
The files are inside the computer.
It's the bit when he goes to like work with his dad and his like brothers, and that advert comes on with him as like the mermaid, and his dad's like, I can't have you around here anymore with my son being a mermaid. And he's like, merman. Oh, see, now I know you like Zoolander, Matthew. But there's also going to be some Zoolander quotes as well as some Tenacious D.
Get in.
Yeah, well,
I can mince like the best of them.
So everyone do their best Blue Steel in 5.
Actually, really
It
hurt
would
my
be
neck.
like the first game that had facial construction as a randomizer mechanic.
Yeah.
And obviously, instead of healing potions, you'll have orange mocha frappuccinos.
They're the best.
Obviously.
Someone has to be Hansel, though. Hansel's a key component.
Oh, he's so hot right now.
Yeah.
Well, you said Han Solo, and I'm like,
Or just have the Millennium Falcon in the background, you know.
It would break some immersion.
I do love the bit where Magatu's there and he's talking about Hansel and he's like, serve me up an order of hot piping Hansel.
I invented. Yeah.
I think I may be the only person in this universe who has not watched Zoolander.
Ronnie, what?
You always think you're the only person to do something.
I'm sure there. You've not watched Zoolander, Jenny?
No.
How do I ban these two from the Hangout?
Yeah, that's it. It's too. I thought you'd better taste than that, Miss Green.
So.
Oh, here we go. Miss Green is coming up. No, I'm not really the best person to talk to about movies. I have not seen many movies in my lifetime.
Have you seen Bill and Ted? That's what's important.
I've
even
bits
seen
of
that,
it.
and I'm a huge fan of.
I don't think I've actually seen it in an entire running before.
Oh my god. Is that Barker?
Yes.
Oh.
Is Barker showing
Yes,
up?
because I live.
Hey,
How have we summoned the Barker?
Jenny
I did.
linked him.
Jenny just said that she did.
I think he's running a bit behind us, man.
You mentioned Bill and Ted. That's how
Still,
it came.
still thinking about porn
I
star
think you
names.
just
That's
sat in
why
his
I keep
kitchen going,
distracted,
there's a
you know what I'm
hangout
saying?
somewhere.
Hey, Lou.
So he flies out.
Hello, Barker.
Hello. How's everybody doing?
Well, your job is to bring up an RPG topic that is not the Zoolander, the RPG.
Because it's become at this point in the conversation.
And to test Miss Green's film knowledge, apparently she has none. We must know more.
You've done goofed because Zoolander, the RPG, is now all I want to talk about.
Yeah.
Poor Johnny and
Okay. How would you do an RPG like that?
I would take the feat Blue Steel right off the bat.
I upgraded to like
Then I have Magnum.
at 5th level.
Yeah, I was going to be lower level. I was going more for like a catalogue sort of look, you know.
John, Zoolander Cthulhu, we've got it. This is what you got. Compare, smash the two together.
Oh, Zoolander and
Cthulhu.
Cthulhu, I could do that.
Only these 5 fashion dudes.
I'm gonna write that
They
down.
do
I might do
work.
it as a one shot.
There's an Alex.
Cthulhu.
Alex, we're talking about Zoolander, the RPG.
It's the one RPG where you can justify playing like a really low intelligence character.
So many
You just can't do that.
many RPGs where you can justify playing a low intelligence character.
No,
Because I've never seen that happen. Never. I've never seen a low intelligence character.
Toon cornered the market in giving you license to play a low IQ character.
We're working paranoia too.
Yes. This is beautiful. Maybe we can get Sasif's opinion. Will it work in Microscope? That's what I wanna know.
Yes, any kind of character could work in Microscope. You're not even playing a
I
single
was going to
character.
say, you don't play a single character in Microscope.
Yeah.
So we could create the Zoolander universe. Yes.
You better not try that for the Microscope game that I end up running.
Yeah. What don't you want? Well, we've got to have fashionable dudes who mince around New York.
Oh, what do you want as your theme? Well, I'm going to cover the Bornstein dynasty.
I think I'll be the evil Mugatu, because no one wants to be Mugatu.
Are you sure he is a bit of a dick?
Yeah, but I'm quite at home at that prospect.
I thought it was funny.
Could we mash together Zoolander and Night at the Museum, just so that I could play like a little miniaturized Roman Imperial?
Yeah, you just
That would
call
be
it Night at the Zoo, like Night at the Zooseum.
Like the museum with all the magical shit has like a fashion.
Museum for ants.
Oh, what? So you're actually playing like a fashion manager?
Dude, nobody heard your joke. Nobody heard your joke,
too
Rufus.
bad.
It was perfect. It was a
Too bad.
wasted joke.
Too bad.
It deserves
Can't
more.
repeat it. Can't repeat it. It won't be funny.
No. Oh, man. I'm just glad I heard it. Oh,
I'm partially convinced that you just laughed at nothing. You just wanted us all to feel like we missed out on something.
Yeah.
Well, we're live, apparently, so you can go back and rewatch it.
Thanks, Google Hangouts.
We are live. Since
Oh,
when?
well, hey, Mom. Then.
Since a few hours ago.
It's been live since about 10 minutes after the Hangout started.
Oh.
I was really freaked out when I noticed that my mom liked all the videos I was in. That was a bit
cool.
bummer. My mother. And they were like,
To be fair, my mum wouldn't have an idea what YouTube was.
yeah, well, my great grandmother on Facebook. I mean, not anymore. Poor thing, she passed away, but she was on Facebook. My great grandmother, 85 years old. Yeah, so RPGs.
You're right, Jenny. That is sickeningly cute.
I don't want to mention what I misread that as.
Yeah, I did as
I
well.
did that as well the first time.
He went there as well.
Can I just,
I had
say, with my hands held up, that I did not make up that word?
I just thought to myself, well, I'm not
That was
really an
all
expert to
John's
really have that kind of opinion, Jenny. I can't really say.
I was going to say the chat window would beg to differ with you, Jenny.
Okay. Yeah.
Although I've drank about half a bottle of this coffee liqueur, so everything seems pretty funny to me.
All I've got is the rest of my high five drink.
I had some quality Dandelion and Burdock when I came in, so I'm a teetotaler.
Well, I only have a bar of chocolate, so that's all my drugs right now.
Melt it down and drink it.
It has Oreos in it. So.
What?
Better.
Some sort of liquefied drinking chocolate. That would never work.
What sorcery is this?
That's it, man. People have been burned for less.
I feel like we should name the hangout like the effect on RPGs on your health, and just have John's like drinking stance as the thumbnail.
I do a bit like movie mistakes. Every time I take a swig, I'll just have like a go ding, and like a timer or something. I might do that for a future hangout actually. Just see if I can do it. I might do it during on a day when I'm not running anything for like the brigade con.
You're always running.
Have a hangout running all day and just be like ding. Ding. I might even get one of them little bells and I can just hit it every time I take a swig of it.
Oh, there you go.
That's a question. It's partially related to RPG. But how would you? What would you say? Drinking in meanwhile playing. Where would you draw the line?
For me, I mean,
If you get intoxicated.
Yeah, it very much depends on me. Each person has to. You have to know your own limits, basically. I mean, you know. Surely yourself how much you can drink and still be capable of functioning.
If they can't tell the difference between a D6 and a D20, time to cut them off. We'll start rolling random dice.
Time to cut them off.
Yeah.
The fact it sounds like you've got like an optic at the side of your gaming table.
I think it's a matter of whether drunk or sober. If they become a problem, they're a problem. So.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, fact is, there's an awful lot of people who can be like problem players who don't have to have had a drink.
That's right.
In order to accomplish that Herculean feat.
If someone became a jerk when they drank, you can talk to them and say, hey, no more drinking during game. Yeah. Someone who's just a jerk normally, well, they're. Not much you can do except
they can drink. Yeah.
They don't.
That'll be
You give them a drink, but
if you had a player who was an absolute obnoxious ass 90% of the time, but when they were drunk, they were the best role player you've ever seen.
I would feed them vodka.
Like some kind of vodka.
Yeah. Right. They walk through the door. Here's your drink.
Yep. Well,
and you find out you have a drinking problem, and you want to help them, but they become a jerk as you do.
I'd probably consider whether destroying their life was worth getting a slightly decent player for my roleplay game. Then I'd probably unfortunately go a bit sensible and go, no, it's probably not really. And I'd say, oh, perhaps this isn't your game, mate. Sorry about this.
That's because you're too reasonable, Mr. Large.
That's it. Well, what can I say? I can't help it. Even when I'm drunk, I'm diplomatic.
Yep.
I've been very, very lucky. With the players that I've had on table, at least with friends, they've pretty much used to having like one drink. They'll have like one glass of wine or something, or something of that nature, and they don't really go beyond that. I mean, I don't drink at all, so.
I think that's really fortunate. Honestly, because and I've had players who I think all my players have a drink when they come over, but they're not crazy about it.
Yeah.
But we went through a period of time where one of our players was like on Ambien, and we didn't realize it until that really came out. And then he went into my recording studio and started having like a living dream. Like it was really rough. But I'm just saying,
Guy Ritchie
I'm the
having the best time ever.
Yeah, I'm the opposite of you, Ronnie, in that there's been like serious tryouts to be around my group, and the only prerequisite is that if I don't have to babysit you, you can stay.
I think that's very, very sound, to be honest. I mean, my only sort of rule would be if you're not capable of role playing your character and sort of being an active part of the game, that would be where I'd draw the line. If you want a few beers and you can handle it and you can still roleplay, that's absolutely fine. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm still capable of holding a fairly sort of civil conversation now, even though I've drank.
You think that, and then you watch back.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure I'll watch back the Hangout. I'll be like,
watch back the video, and it's like you are rambling drunk.
Yeah. I'll be like, oh no, I know I ramble, but I do that when I'm sober, so that's fine. But
just don't start singing.
That's why all my videos are so long, man. But if I was actually playing a game where I had to concentrate, I probably wouldn't have drunk quite as much. But even so, I'd be capable of like playing in like a one shot or something. Now that'd be fine. But someone else might drink might be able to drink more than me, or they might be able to drink less than me. It's down to individual people to know their own limits. And as far as I'm concerned, if you come in to play the game, it's your responsibility to make sure that you are in a capable position to do that. If that means, oh yeah, you can drink 8 cans of beer or whatever, and you're fine to do that's fine. However, if you know you can only drink like 2 or 3 cans of beer before you start getting a bit unable to participate, let's say, to put it diplomatically, then that's your responsibility to make sure you only have 2 or 3. And if you go beyond that and you obviously can't participate, I'll be like, yeah, you should step back and like not be trying to in this session. Go and sleep it off.
Yeah. Personally, I can hold my liquor. I just don't like the feeling of being intoxicated at all. So I never drink.
To be fair, in the interest of not like scaring away like Matthew and Jenny, who are going to be at a convention with me at like the end of this month, I also rarely drink. I definitely don't shout loudly and talk very much more loud when I'm drunk. I never sing Tenacious D when I'm drunk.
Yes, you do.
I never make lots of ridiculously stupid jokes when I'm drunk. I definitely don't wave my arms around a lot more when I'm drunk.
Stupid jokes. I do that when I'm sober.
To be honest, so do I. Basically, the thing is, it very much depends on, in all seriousness, it very much depends on what effect drink has on you, because as we know, it has different effects on different people. I mean, with me, it's just a case of, I'm a bit more stupid with my jokes, I'm a bit louder, I ramble a bit more, but I'm basically the same person, whereas some people get a bit fighty when they have a drink, some people get a bit drowsy or a bit huggy
some people can't function as a human being, period.
Yeah.
And if it affects the other players around the table, that's where I draw the line.
Yeah, don't ruin everyone else's fun just to have yours.
That's it. Exactly. Basically, if you're making the game an uncomfortable or an unpleasant place to be, then you've gone too far.
Absolutely.
Unless you're playing like a drunken fish Shaolin monk or something, then go for it.
Yeah, the thing is that's the difference between like actually being drunk and drunk. So I've role-played loads of characters who've been drunk. I mean, I've been to like live actions of Mind's Eye Theatre games where I've role-played people who've been blind drunk, and then afterwards I've got back in my car and I've had people going, "Oh, do you think you should be driving?" And I'm like, "It's fine. I've just been drinking lemonade all night. I'm not actually drunk."
That was funny because I haven't played a lot of LARPs, but I played one where my character, it was a Cthulhu one, where my character was a book collector with an alcohol problem. So I was playing drunk, and I had people come up to me. It's like, out of character. You okay? It's like, oh, I'm fine. I'm just playing. It's all right. No problem.
What's Barker linked us to? That was a cackle and a half, John.
Because that's an amazing video.
Oh my.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God.
There you go, Jenny. It's good to know that it's not only the men who are on the RPG Brigade who are obsessed with you.
Jenny!
Well, thanks, I guess.
The things that exist.
I am so tempted to post that every time now you post a video in the RPG Brigade, Jenny. Just leave it there.
That's your new.
Speaks for itself.
If you do that, Matthew, I will buy you a drink when I see you at the UK Games Expo. I know that's not much of an inducement, because I'm going to buy you a drink anyway.
So UK Games Expo 2000.
Yes.
When is it this year? I've asked you this 4 times. When is it?
Don't pretend like you don't know, Varka. We know you.
I don't know because, and it's not because you haven't told me. It's because I'm a jerk. And
I just don't care.
the chat for you.
You don't have to care, Alex. You're not in the UK.
Well,
But neither is
I'll tell you what.
Barker.
We want to. Oh man, I want to go.
Yeah, but he's got so much love for RPGs that it transcends like transatlantic boundaries.
Oh.
What I need to do, Barker, is put on my Super Rogue shirt and fly over and just.
Oh yeah! Let me see the shirt. That's the official "Be a Better Game Master" T-shirt.
This is
Right
probably
there,
the
James.
fifth time I've showed it on this
Oh,
hangout.
I was saying earlier, Barker, I was like, you mean I went to all that effort of like getting a Red Dice Diaries hoodie printed when I could have just bought a normal hoodie and wrote it in fucking permanent marker?
Yeah. No, my favorite part of that shirt is if you look at the tag, it's totally made in Vietnam. Like, there's nothing more American.
Oh yeah, I didn't even see that.
Dude, to be fair, we've got Primark over here, man. It's all made in Vietnam.
Oh, nice.
Oh, yeah, this is Faded Glory since 1972. It's even got some like wings on it.
Yeah, there was a shirt next to it that was made in the USA, and I chose the Vietnam shirt specifically because that's more American than
More American, yeah, definitely.
Oh, but now your American people here become dis-American.
Become what?
Nothing. Your country
But
should-
we're actually, if we can't make it to this coming UK games, then we're definitely going in 2016 because that's something. Honestly, that's something I travel. Period. For like that's all I need.
Cut to a scene several months later with Barker working on a tramp steamer, going, shoveling fish as he's going across the Atlantic.
Singing like Old Man River or something.
No, cut a year later when someone's like, "Hey, Barker, you coming up to the UK Games Expo?" And I'm like, "Oh no, I can't. Sorry, I don't know what
I just
happened."
have this thing.
To be honest, I'm a bit gutted really because this is like the first year I've gone, and it's like the first year that the Gentleman Gamer hasn't gone to it.
Oh really?
Oh
Yeah,
wow.
well, we still don't know yet.
No,
actually said.
he posted the other day on his on
Oh
his
crap!
Facebook.
Really?
It's the first year he hadn't gone. Because he's going to like Gen Con and stuff, so he's got to pay the pennies, which
I just thought like he's such a he seems to from our point of view he seems like such a fixture there that it's like you'd expect to go there and he'd be like in a glass booth or something like that, with a signed Gentleman Gamer on the front, him sitting just in there in his booth waiting.
Either that or sort of sat outside with like a cup of tea and there's a newspaper and everyone's like, morning.
They always play the Make-A-Wish angle, make it sound like Barker's come all this way just to see him. And he's not even touching him. You've got to come now.
If only we could have Barker turn up like his like lower lip trembling and like another T-shirt grip.
Oh, you know what?
I've come all this way.
If you really want to sell it, Barker.
I need to exchange shirts with you and give you your own DM shirt.
Somebody promised me vampire stories.
If you want to sell it, be dragging an oxygen tank with the tube going over your ears around your nose, yeah.
What?
I'm looking forward to seeing you there, though, Barker. I know you're going to turn up.
One of these days I'll turn up. And I'll be in my silence costume, and you'll just have to be like, Barker.
Who was that guy? I can't remember. Who was that guy?
I don't remember him.
I don't remember him. I'm sure I saw it.
I do believe.
Oh, John, that's a really funny video you posted.
Oh my gosh, John, that's hilarious. You're a hilarious guy. What a great idea.
It's like deja vu.
What? Oh, that video.
Jedi.
It's alright, man.
Okay.
American copyrights don't apply over it.
Someone should go through all of John's videos and just record every time he says the word fake car.
Oh.
How long is your lifespan?
I will stand. I will unsheath my blades and stand next to John forever in the argument that fate is the greatest ever. Period.
That's a strong opinion coming from the back corner.
Coming from the what?
From the back corner.
The Barker corner.
To be fair, Matthew, don't try and make it sound like you don't like Fate when I've seen your face whenever anyone mentions Dresden.
I do love Fate. I do love Fate.
just when you found out about the lack of Dresden.
Yeah, I did get really upset. Yeah, you were there for that. There was like one Dresden game on the UK Games Expo, and I turned up like literally 5 minutes after it went live, and it already sold out. I just started throwing furniture around.
Don't know what you're mad about, man. I was like online at home, like when the games went sort of live and you could start booking them, and I was like, all right, okay, I want to play this. Put all the games in. Then I was like, because my wife's coming with me. I was like, I've no idea what games she wants to play, because her taste in role plays are very different to mine. And I was like, oh, it'll be all right. I'll just ask her when she gets back home because she's out for the evening. Got back, she was like, oh well, what games are you playing? You know, I might get in on some of them, and I was like, they've all sold out. in like the sort of space of the half an hour it's taking you to get home.
Heartbreaking.
I'm sorry, I didn't know. I've never booked games for the UK Games Expo before.
Like I said, I might just start a game in the middle of the bar. Like,
Oh,
you can
yeah,
have,
I mean, there's
you
the-
can have a
there's
high
the open
concept. You can have a high
playing
concept.
To be honest, I've only got to walk 1.5 miles back to my hotel, so I might like bring my Fate books with me and like run a quick one shot later on.
Is this way to get me out of the Hilton for like a couple of hours?
It is. It's getting your sorry like money spending ass out the Hilton with their like reasonably priced rooms on my backside.
I was arguing
That's what
earlier on the UK Games Expo page. Oh yeah, Premier Inn's the place to be. And then someone was like, no, actually, the Premier Inn's the place for people who didn't get a place at the Hilton. It's like, really?
I was like, let me just compare those figures, shall I? I'm spending about just over £100 for the entire like 4 nights I'm there.
4
Splendid. What's that? It'd cost me more than that for 1 night at the Hilton.
Yeah, but John, you don't get the see-through showers.
That's true, you don't.
That's paying extra.
Man, I don't even like looking at myself in the showers.
Pirates.
Although I'm probably tempted, given that you keep going on about them showers, just to turn up to like one day at the convention just wearing like a bath towel.
I think if I wasn't going to Switzerland at the start of May, I would have been tempted to go down to this year's expo.
You're gonna be there. Barker's gonna be there. Jen's coming down just for him.
What? Hold on, wait. I don't know. No, I'm not gonna be there. Hold on.
No, he is. He confirmed.
I might go.
You know
Hey,
exactly.
sweetie, they're saying I'm gonna be there. We have to go.
In the distance, you just hear Barker going, Jenny! Jenny!
Johnny!
This is international. It'll cause an incident if I don't go.
Where are you going to? Switzerland, Ronnie? That's awesome.
Friend of mine emigrated there a couple of years ago.
Cool.
So I'm going over to spend the week.
That's beautiful.
It's weird. I'm emigrating to the UK and people emigrating from there to us. That's weird.
Well, you know,
Balance in the universe, my friend. Balance in the universe.
Emigrate to the UK.
where her partner lived, so she moved in there.
That's right. Barker's buying a yurt to come live on the land with us. So.
I brought that up to Heather. I was like, hey, you want to live in a yurt? Because Alex got a bunch of land. You know, we could go over and live in a yurt. And then I said, there's one thing though. There's like 6 feet of snow there right now. That yes turned it into a no real fast.
To be fair, Barker, I've had exactly the same conversation with my wife, because I've been like, oh yeah, I know someone who like lives up in a yurt in the like arse end of nowhere. I was like, I could go for some of that, you know, getting me like far away from like other people.
Civilization.
What's the weather like there? Cold as fuck. No, we're gonna
Really? I think Alex's actual words are, it's the temperature outside now is the average temperature of the solar system. And I was like, that's cool.
Wow.
Like, yeah. No.
To be fair though, with climate change, I'm thinking in 10 years we could be subtropical. So this could be the place to be.
It's an investment.
You build like
it's a long-term investment. You have to.
You build a tropical resort and you're waiting for global warming to turn it into a
waiting for climate change. I tried to fight it, but
Albuquerque's going to be the new Cabo San Lucas pretty soon, man. So that's why we're here.
I'm really waiting for the time when the whole planet will turn into a giant desert and the worm can come back. Because
Really positive thinking. Really nice.
Yeah, just so
Positive
you
views.
can see before it eats you.
Silver lining, I like it.
yeah, no, we will have melange. That's like awesome.
He who controls the spice controls the universe.
Does that mean the KFC's in control of the planet?
No, they've got 13 herbs and spices. It's different.
Am I really?
We should have called this hangout the like gratuitous advertising hangout. The amount of like brand names.
Speaking of which, everybody watch Black Sails, really awesome pirate series. This is not a paid commercial. No,
To be fair, I thought you were going to go. Speaking of which,
no. Black Sails.
One of those cork chunks just goes along the hangout windows.
Actually,
really awesome.
to quickly run and get McDonald's.
So if you like pirates and you are a geek, who doesn't like pirates? Yes. So you do have to watch Black Sails, which is like Game of Thrones with pirates.
All right.
I absolutely hate pirates. I would have nothing to do with them. I'm definitely not running a Fate one shot about pirates.
The rumors are not true.
Question, John. Do you actually hate pirates?
No.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, then never mind. I mean, that conversation just died.
Sorry, the sarcasm of
wondering,
Burton on Trent is quite potent.
There's two things we like where I come from: Marmite and sarcasm.
Yes. Yeah.
They're also about taste the same. So.
You had your serious face on, though.
This is going to be face on. I'm sorry, I was born with it, man. There's nothing I can do.
I was born with a serious face.
He wields 18th level sarcasm.
I also had the same haircut when I was born.
Serious face, Barker. Serious face is a prerequisite for good sarcasm.
Serious. Yeah, it's true. Dang.
And that's why I fail. Like I can't keep poker face. I'm like smiling like an idiot all the time.
I am considering going to next year's expo.
Cool. Splendid.
Armed, complete with Castle Falkenstein. There you go, finally.
Hey, he said it.
What is that?
My night's made now. I can go to sleep.
I feel like I've stumbled into an inside joke.
Ronnie basically gets wood for Castle Falkenstein.
Oh, yeah. Is that weird? Is that weird?
It's a beautiful thing, perspective. Passion and love that you and John have for Fate, I have for Castle Falkenstein.
Well, to be fair, John, he has mentioned it fewer times tonight than you have mentioned Fate. So.
Oh yeah, but I'm not denying my love for Fate.
Ronnie,
as you come up and there's a Fate die in the corner of your screen.
I'm going to take the bait and ask what is Castle Falkenstein because I have no idea.
It's a game that came out in the mid-90s. It is a alternative fantasy steampunk setting.
It's cool. Well worth buying.
I feel like Barker's gone into like GM mode. He's added Dice Stream, and now he's like, oh, there's enough people in here for a game, so he's just started adding things in already.
I'm writing my own system.
Normally, anyone coming in and going, "Oh, it's on a fancy game," I'll be like, "Oh yeah, quality." However, at 10 to 1 in the morning.
It's not 10 to 1 in the morning everywhere in this hangout.
No, but it is where I am, and that's what
it is where I am.
It is where Matthew is, funnily enough, as well.
It's 2 in the morning.
It's like you all live in the same region. Almost.
But we don't.
Well, hold on. Okay.
I'm not saying I'm dice
Time
suspicious, but I don't want to roll Dice Stream unless it's in a game, because I feel like I waste all my good rolls.
I will never roll on those dice rollers. They are horrible. They never roll over 13 on a d20. Never.
Dang, John, that's a lot of negatives.
Oh, Jesus, John.
Yeah, that's not good.
Yeah, that's really too well.
How come we've never done that before?
He spent so much time working on that overlay to show people who he is, and now it's just all Fate dice.
That's all this campaign notes are. It's just pluses and
Isn't that
minuses.
life?
People do it all the time on Fantasy Grounds, but never on Google Hangout.
Those are awesome looking dice, though, I have to say.
Dude, I am a Fate fanatic. Like, I will defend Fate to the ends of the earth because that is that's just my favorite system. That's it.
I kind of see this Hangout as a Fiasco game.
I think
I still haven't played Fiasco. It looks good.
I think you find a system that just hits the sweet spot for you, whatever that system is.
It could be Castle Falkenstein. It could be something else.
Yeah,
you're absolutely right. Yeah, you're absolutely right, Ronnie.
You know, whatever the sweet spot is, you know, you will you play it and you go, yeah, that's what I want to play.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly.
As long as it's not a certain system, then. As long as it's not fatal, then I'm cool with that.
No, I don't want
fatal. Fatal should be bad. That's the old system.
Yeah, I don't want to meet the person who thinks fatal is the best system.
I don't want
that person to be a part of my life.
I don't even want to meet the person who think that fatal is a system. Actually, when I think about it, I remember reading it because I was curious, and I actually felt my insanity points just dropping.
I think when I found out, I mean, I kind of looked at it was online, and I'd heard a couple of things about it. I said, right, I'll have a quick sneak peek at it. The first thing that shocked me was the fact that the rulebook was 908 pages.
Yeah.
I thought, okay, this guy is taking himself just a bit seriously. And then you start reading it and you say, no, this guy needs to just be taken away by the men in white coats. He needs to be put in a padded room with a one-size-fits-all shirt.
Yeah. Either he had too much medication or too little medication.
Whatever it was, he needed the other because there's just no excuse for that game at all.
Well, neither is for the Book of Erotic Fantasy, which is just fucked up. I don't know, have you read that book, but that's crazy.
Yep.
Have I read the book? Oh, it's on my nightstand, baby.
But I don't know what gets you off, Marker. We are not that close yet, but no. It's...
Hey, do you know how much it cost him to laminate his copy of it, man?
Too many jokes. But no, as I say, with Barker, with Barker and John, it's Fate. With me, it's Falkenstein. You find that system, and it just that's the way to go.
It's the one that clicks for you in particular, isn't it?
No, where can I get like Falkenstein on drive-through?
Yes, you can.
All right.
Hey, I'll tell you what you need to know, Barker.
Yes, you can.
I'll tell you what you need to know, Barker.
Now,
There's a Fate Castle Falkenstein conversion.
Oh shit! You done goofed, son.
When you burst it off.
What if I told you you could play this entire game?
I happened to mention sometime, Ronnie. I mean, you've been on about Castle Falkenstein, and I mentioned to someone. I was like, "Oh, a friend of mine was talking about Castle Falkenstein," and someone went, "As everyone does whenever I mention a role-play game, they always go, there's a Fate conversion of that."
Yeah, I've had a look at it.
I always found that system for me. It was almost the Song of Ice and Fire role-playing game, but it's just missing something, but it is an excellent system.
That's what I've heard.
I like Song of Ice and Fire. I haven't used it yet, but I like the system. It's interesting.
It is very interesting.
It's far more involved, though. It's definitely on the sort of heavy end, mechanic-wise.
But character creation, definitely, but playing isn't really difficult. It's just you roll a few dice, and that's it. It is not taxing on your gameplay. That's true.
I don't think I could play it, though. I just wouldn't be able to trust anybody. I would think every player is trying to get my head chopped off. Constantly.
Yeah. The thing is, that game.
That's meta.
That was maybe the first role-playing game I played that wasn't kind of forcing you into combat situations. I mean, obviously it's a different game, but like you don't have to fight at all.
Well, that's not the system. I mean, that's just
Yeah,
how
no,
it is.
but it's like the system. You can make a character that it is completely viable, and it's not a fighter. I haven't done that in any other game because, yeah, Vampire is not a fighting game, but you always fighting Vampire. I mean, I always did.
Well, I've seen a lot of games that like should be fighting games that like D&D. I mean, the classes are just the ways you kill people. That's really what a class is in Dungeons and Dragons. But I've seen the GM run it in a way where you don't have to. But that's cool to hear that, you know, non-fighting, non-combat has been written into the system itself. Because I don't see that very often.
You can make a character that like dies in one hit, and it's completely viable. It's really awesome. Plus, it's Game of Thrones.
Just ask Ned Stark, man.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got a Song of Ice and Fire. I am considering using the system, but running it in medieval Europe.
Yeah, it can totally do that because you just like take out a few of the I don't know how it's called, traits or something like Green Seer, and there it is, medieval Europe. It's really an awesome system, and house creating is really fun.
But it is one, please set aside a day for character creation, especially if you're doing a house as well.
Oh, that's cool. That's what I like to call a fuck that system.
What system?
A fuck that system.
That's what I thought you said.
I'm sorry, man. If character gen takes more than like half an hour.
Yeah. Unfortunately, John, not every role-playing game is like Fate.
I know, no, Fate.
It's not a perfect world we live in, Matthew.
When someone says to me, "Oh, there's a Fate version of this game," all that means to me is, "Oh, you take all the powers in that game and you just write them on index cards, and that's it, and you have the Fate version right there."
That's pretty much it, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I read the Fate Wolkenstein one, and I was reading it going, because I mean it is a real change between using playing cards as Wolkenstein does and using dice as Fate does. So it's a real change right there and then.
It's funny you say, because I'm sorry.
Go for it.
It's funny that you say that Fate is easy to make characters in and mechanical. I suppose it is, but I always take so long determining my my aspects. That takes me forever doing those.
It's weird. I was talking about this the other day with someone. Aspects seem to be very much a mechanic that people either sort of get straight away, or it takes them like quite a long time. I mean,
I love them.
I get them, and they are to me the best part of Fate. That's the aspects.
I mean, the thing is, with me, when I first sort of started playing Fate, it never even occurred to me that like it might take a long time to come up with aspects. I was just like, right, these are my aspects. There we go. On to the next bit.
Yeah, I guess I just spend a lot of time. I want the correct wording, and I don't want two aspects that are more or less the same. So.
Say for instance, I'm playing in a. It's like I love how you can do stunts as well. I mean, I've got a friend who was in the Hangout at the start of this. It's running a sort of Cowboys versus Aliens game with Fate Accelerated at the minute, and I've got a stunt where basically once a session I can like summon my horse wherever I am. So you can just sort of like whistle and you have your horse comes like running in to like help you escape from the scene. And I have my phone tuned up to play like the William Tell overture, like whenever I kick my stunt off, which is quite cool.
That's cool. But that's an idea I liked about Within the Ring of Fire, that theme song for your character.
Yeah, that was neat.
Really cool.
Mm-hmm.
But
although it really doesn't, it's really hard to do on Hangouts, especially if you're gonna, put it on your page, because then YouTube can just like swoop in and say, "Oh, copyrighted material."
Should have that for your character in Jade Punk, Matthew. You could have "Oops, I did it again."
I was expecting something from Kevin Bacon there, some Footloose reference.
Yeah. To be fair, initially that was where I was.
Yeah.
Going.
I haven't done anything ridiculous lately, apart from absorbing an explosion.
I'm waiting for like some sort of like pivotal scene in your character to walk in and just go, look, you can tell by the way I use my walk. I'm a woman. No time to talk.
I really wanted to go to that masquerade ball, but nobody would bite.
Yeah, see, I set that whole plot thing.
I was excited.
There's an airship, there's a masquerade ball, there's what more do you want? And you guys were like, no.
Hey, listen, I want
we're going to knock around in the slums, like.
I think one of the most stereotypical character I made was for a Scion game, and we also used theme songs for that. And my character had two theme songs. One, an entering song, and another was when action started happening. And my entering song was the Star Spangled Banner, a redneck character, should I say. And the other was some WWE entering song for the action thing. And whenever like the Star Spangled Banner started playing, characters stood up and looked dreamily in the distance.
I've played a Scion of Loki with Disco Inferno as his theme music, so.
Yes.
It just always reminds me of I'm Gonna Get You, Sucker.
Yeah.
Wonderful spoof. Awesome. The band in the background following behind this guy.
Guys, I'm going to have to call it a night because it's like 1:05 here and I'm up in about 4 hours. But I have no idea what effect this will have on the Hangout as I stop the broadcast. I think
it shouldn't end.
Yeah, it shouldn't end.
So you guys feel free to carry on. Say goodbye to Barker for me when he gets back, when he's finished being all locked up with his missus. And I will see you all soon. Take care, guys. Thanks for joining us on the Hangout.
Bye.
See you later.
Take care.